I'd like to begin the episode by thanking some folks like Ben Allum, Billy Minns, and Matt Smith. These are all people who have gone to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv and kicked us some money and help support this show and the whole network of shows that are quite similar to it. If you would like to be like them and get some cool stuff, you too can go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv.
My name is Gary Butterfield.
My name is Cole Ross.
And you're listening to Watch Out for Fireballs. It is a Games Club podcast.
And this week we are talking about Norco, which is a point-and-click adventure game developed by Geography of Robots and published by Raw Fury for the PC and consoles in 2022.
Yeah. This is kind of a just an us pick.
Mm-hmm.
A game that got a lot of buzz that we were... it was like, oh, we'll play that for the show someday.
Yeah.
Let's not play it for fun.
Yeah. Just was curious about it. The broad description hit a lot of my buttons.
Yes. Yeah. Were those buttons consistently and thoroughly hit to completion? You'll find out after this admin note.
Yes.
Real quick before we get into it. We had talked a little bit about and hinted about in a previous episode about doing our second live Duckfest this year. We're not going to do that this year. We're going to possibly do that next year.
Mm-hmm.
It is just too busy of a year for things. Really, it's largely me, not my fault, but just a case. So I'm having I'm having my wedding. I eloped in January, but I'm having a wedding party in June. So Cole's coming out to that, which is great. Wouldn't be the same without you, buddy. But that is you coming out to Portland many times in a year. 3 times that would be if we did.
Yeah,
Duckfest, like a month and a half apart.
That's a real shitty plane ride to do. I can do it twice. I got 2 in me.
It's a big ask, and the wedding one is a once in a lifetime kind of thing.
Yes.
This, that's not, and ordinarily like do 2 regular year. Sure. 3.
Especially first year back doing live events,
it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. So, we're going to do next year. Probably it's way too early to start playing stuff for next summer. We've been looking at other cons. I've had emails. I've been going back and forth with some people about possibly diversifying our con appearances. All that stuff is in the works. I just wanted to be, I don't see any reason not to be super transparent about like basically everything.
Right.
Why wouldn't we?
Got nothing to hide. You just instilled all that FOMO in people about that big wedding party that both of us are going to be to.
There'll be pictures.
Yeah.
And you can look at them and you can parasocial as much as you want.
No, I mean,
I can't stop you.
Boundaries, Gary. Boundaries.
No. I mean, parasocial, like in the privacy of their own homes.
Oh, okay.
Not like reach out and just be like, you look like you smell good in those pictures or anything like that.
I probably don't.
I promised you, I will. I'll smell like fucking a dream, but you'll never smell me. Okay. I didn't like this game as much as I wanted to.
Same.
You play.
Really puts itself out on Front Street real well, and then doesn't deliver on promises. I'm really looking forward to this episode because I need, in like almost a therapy sense, to talk out this with somebody and figure out why I didn't like it as much as I thought I would, or as much as all of our peers do. Yeah.
I was really expecting pretty big things from this. And there are people who liked, so this is in the lineage of recent mechanic light, narrative heavy literary games like Kentucky Route Zero, Disco Elysium, Citizen Sleeper, things like that. I don't know if I liked Citizen Sleeper more or less than most people, but I still liked it. Like I wasn't writing a breathless, I wasn't breathless about it.
Yeah.
People are more breathless about this, and it left me cooler than any of those games that we've talked about that I have played.
Right.
It's not a slog. Like it's interesting. There's stuff to think about. It'll be fun to talk about, but I just seemed like I should have liked this a lot more than I did.
Yeah. It's a problem of incoherence for me, and we'll talk about the specifics of that. I don't know, like something like this really does make me feel a little bit like I'm taking crazy pills, you know, and gets me real up my own ass about like what our place in this, if we can be called critics, is like what our place is, especially when we are, talking about stuff that is relatively new. Like if something is more than like 5 years old, that is fair game for a reappraisal, right?
Yes.
Here, something so recent where this title has just so much of a halo around it still from very breathless and genuine positive coverage. It really does make me stop and think like, okay, what is my goal here? What am I doing? In terms of, like how, I don't know, how genuine should we be, which is as genuine as possible, because that's ultimately what we want to do. It's like
but
when you're that much of an
outlier.
Yeah.
What's I mean, sincerely, right? Like,
yeah.
I want these people to do well. It's a beautiful, the story of making this game is this very sweet story. And I want to see more games like this.
Yes.
When I think about the crazy pills part of this, where I feel like I'm just like, what did other people play? I think that sometimes if games take a certain tone and project certain themes, I think that sometimes, and I'm not immune to this either. I'm not, on a soapbox looking down on anybody, but I think that sometimes that can influence. So somebody will evaluate a game, and there's a thing being mixed in with it, which is I want to see more stuff like this. Like I like what this represents. It's not so much what it is. It's I'm just really happy to see this in this space, and that is blowing me away.
Yeah,
I'm real hungry for like this kind of thing.
Yeah. And so I need to, in the, when the ground is freezing, I need to be out here with a hair dryer and, like some little netting, to protect the sapling so that it will grow. It's a wrong comparison, but it really does feel a little bit like, Abe Simpson saying like, we got to watch the Super Bowl or else it won't catch on.
It's a little bit like that. There's that angle of like, it is a moral duty of a critic to champion small, interesting things.
Yes.
Which is a perspective. It's not one that I share. Like, right. I don't think that's our job, but I get it. The other one is the hunger is the best sauce. Like boy, I am sick of video games that like aren't dealing with these kind of class issues and aren't dealing with this kind of sense of place. So when something comes along that deals with it, even when there may be issues with how it deals with it, which we'll talk about, it just is so refreshing. It just tastes like water after walking through the desert for 1,000 miles, because and when I say you, I mean specifically some people who possibly some people who had a huge reaction to this. When that happens, you are just blown away. Like I was so fucking thirsty. I was starving. I did not know that I needed this nutrient, and here it is. And I do not only do I want this tree to grow, I want this well not to dry up, but Jesus fucking Christ, is it refreshing to have, something that's literary. And I don't relate to that very strongly. Like when I try to think about our place, I don't relate to either of those modes very much. I don't think that a critic has a duty to market. I don't think that like it is a moral good to champion small things because they are small. Like in this scenario, like I just don't think that's the case. You know, I don't think that's the job. And then the other bit being like, I like stuff that deals with this sort of thing. I think I am not quite as starved as some people are because I also just like regular ass video games. So I just don't have that like, God, I needed something new. I needed something this fresh feeling that I read in these reviews where people are crying, people are rending garments, weeping. And I just didn't get that.
Yeah. I want to understand it. And part of understanding it is playing the game and trying to, you know, for me, put into words exactly why this doesn't kind of land as much for me. And reading reviews and reading interviews about about the creation of this is real frustrating because they're talking about the promise of the game. It's the facade, right, that draws you in, into the store, and maybe like the first few mannequins are set up real well, and then it's just a pit.
Yeah,
I'm not saying there isn't beauty and joy to be found, but like all that stuff about sense of place and class and these issues that that are affecting these real people, they don't feel paid off. It feels like they kind of like lure you in with that initial promise and veer off into stuff that does not even feel remotely related to that. I don't think I'm being dense by saying that the turns that the stake takes don't have an awful lot to do with, like, say, the geographic legacy of plantations and exploitation,
the petrochemical swamp that is this horrible company town. That like the town has been done horrible things to. It's also a thing that I think is different, at least with myself. I don't want to speak for you, and I think that you're actually probably a little bit more friendly to this kind of thing. But there's a thing that happens sometimes when evaluating games where a big like theme pileup is something that I have a harder time appreciating. So like the more charitable view of what you're talking about would be, it touches on the gig economy. It touches on, like a Gamergate style kid cult. It touches on tech billionaires trying to go off to space. Yeah. It touches on all those things. It doesn't fully explore them. And for some people, just like this touches on a lot of things. It's a big mess that's about everything.
Yeah, it's a cross section. Really, yeah, it's a vertical slice of, a present day kind of thing. Like
present day leftist anxieties. And for me, I always prefer a deeper exploration rather than this just touches on a lot of things. Like I think that sometimes people will be like, oh man, it's so rich because it contains no focus. And I think I'm just a bigger, and call me a smooth brain if you want for that. But like for me, I prefer to have something fully explored and be a through line. Yeah. I don't want to have a abstract mind map kind of, I'm just grabbing random concepts and tying them together. I Heart Huckabee style, like it's all the sheet. I want to have a, I don't know. I want throughput, I want a complete equation in the end sometimes.
I'm fine with the like multiple theme pile up kind of deal if there is an integration between them. I feel like a fucking parody of myself because for the past, 8 or so years, that's been a thing that I've really, championed in analyzing games, is where different parts of it talk to each other,
like, well, we've both been doing that. Like this is, but this is not, it's pretty rare with something to have this many themes where they all talk to each other.
Right.
I think.
Yeah. And just, and also there is kind of the, for lack of a better word, in a game with this kind of interaction model, there is a rounding factor where you're going to give, you're going to be a little bit more generous if it feels like there were concessions made for mechanics and the mechanic can, tie in and stuff. And there's just nothing here. I'm generally okay with a mechanics like game. This is very much kind of an interactive poem. Kind of deal. Yeah.
I'm not generous with things when they have to make concessions for mechanics, and I think that if something's in a game, it counts. So when somebody talks about like the mini games in this improving the pacing, I'm like, it's so fucking. Do you mean the part where I played Simon to punch somebody? Is that what you're fucking talking about? Because that was ludicrous.
I was unclear. If there were any mechanics, I would suddenly start like rounding up on some of the story stuff that didn't
purely
quite
It is purely a narrative game.
Yeah, if it has to stand entirely on its narrative and the things that it is depicting, the fact that it does not draw enough of them or any of them together, really, that is given a lot of time. For me to have that slowly, it is given all the time in the game. After the first chapter, I would say, as stuff starts, instead of paying off, veering into other things, for me to get that sinking feeling like, oh, they're just not going to do anything with this. Oh man.
It's not that there's no, it's also worth contrasting this. Like part of the reason why this is Caveat City, right in the beginning, is because of the halo this has. I have not read anyone say anything bad about this other than a couple of people on the Slack. This is not an unmitigated disaster. I think this is a better video game, than your Sexy Brutales or what have you. There are cool vibes. There's beautiful art, like visual art that happens in this. Like there are cool things. So if you're worried that we're just going to spend 2 hours shitting on your favorite game of 2022, that's not the case.
No,
it's just expectations were sky fucking high.
Yeah.
And I spent all this morning trying to figure out what people see in this, which means I read thousands and thousands of words of people describing a piece of artwork that made them rend their garments.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't get it. And there's also a bunch of things too that like are specific, I think, kind of heat-seeking missiles to people in terms of themelets. So they just maybe hit really hard that they hit me kind of cold. We're going to get into all of it, but just want to get that out there because it is, I don't think that we have done a game where we've had quite as different experience to the critical consensus. Like I would give this like a high C. I think this is like a fine little story. It's a trifle. And the game of the year, most important point and click game of the decade, like the number of hyperbolic epaulets to this are numerous.
Yeah. And anybody who would be prone to believe that this is the case would not be receptive to me stating this out loud. But I think that it is important to say we are not doing this intentionally. That disparity is not something that we're not looking to get people mad and disappointed with us. Yeah.
Do you know how much we hate people yelling at us? Like, it's so funny when someone's like, oh, you're just doing that to get attention. I'm like, do you know how little I want attention? Are you kidding me? Like, I don't want that.
No.
No, I just, there's a goblin's curse and I have to be honest about the game. So in this, you play a young woman named Kay. You return to your hometown of Norco, Louisiana after your mother's death.
Yeah.
And Norco is real.
Real place. I tweeted about this and Jeremy talked about like, the vibe is on point. Like he goes there for work sometimes. And it's really weird to exist in the shadow of these refineries.
Yeah. Your real life city, Norco, Louisiana. It's even like Norco is an acronym. Like it's nuts. It is owned by Shell Oil. It is this incredible, like, again, petrochemical swamp. That has taken over this town of like 2,000 or 3,000 people. Points for being a very unique setting for a video game, like an area that's not explored very well. This is like a just in the future version of it. So a little sci-fi.
Fictionalized sci-fi, realistic to the geography, which is very important here. We are on Lake Pontchartrain, but like sci-fi in terms of there are robots and stuff. There's like AI and things going on, coexisting.
The bewildering android subplot that I also think was supposed to make me sad. This is like a Mac venture. It is a first person point and click. You explore these illustrated scenes, talk to a lot of people, and then you have a little map in the lower right that shows the different exits. It's very deja vu in that way.
And this is one of the only games where I've seen the creator specifically cite deja vu specifically as an inspiration.
Fuck those other two. But I bring it on. right? Like I love Deja. I love Mac Ventures. I think that that's a cool form factor for an adventure game.
Yeah, it is. It is a form factor worth aping. But this is really mechanics light. You know, there's some puzzle solving, like there's cool stuff you do with the sound recordings in a later chapter.
That's the premier puzzle. Like that's the good puzzle. I think in the game.
But like there's a small inventory system, but like most of the things you're going to be getting are just collectibles. This is a game that it assumes you're going to be real motivated by getting phone cases for your cell phone, you know?
Yeah. Doing side quests and stuff, of which I did not do, not because I was shirking my duty on purpose. Some of them I did not realize you could do. There's a couple swaths of this I missed, and I don't feel like I played it in an incurious way.
It doesn't say, it doesn't put like something in your PDA to like, hey, go check this out. Like nobody stops you from following up on a lead. It's just very often that lead will lead to a cell phone case.
Yes. Yeah, that does happen from time. And it's, there is a combat system in this. For when situations come to blows, you have party members in this, like a role-playing game. The party members each have their own different versions of QTEs that you can do. These are ludicrous. I do not respect these.
No.
It's either these little ring bass thing where there's little timing bits. You have to hit these little drums as rings come in on them, like Elite Beat Agents, or Simon. That you can do. And those are the two that is abstracted to the point of nonsense. The idea of playing Simon to punch somebody is just silly. You do it with real silly little glyphs, like sci-fi glyphs. I don't get it. I don't know what it adds. At one point you get inventory and you have grenades, and then I just use them on the next boss, and then that was it. Like there was no, I don't know what it's gaining from borrowing bits of a more robust mechanical system like this, other than just a vague variety of what you're doing with your hands. So I was not very impressed by this. I don't know.
It's there to borrow the feelings of mechanics for suspense, even though like I can't overstate this. Failing is not a problem. It takes many hits to kill you.
I didn't think like my guys had stats. Apparently I was like, I have no idea. Cause you just kind of click through the mini games until the bad guys go away.
Yeah.
It is literally just like, hey, do this cup and ball for a little bit, and then the story will continue.
Yeah. It's like if you had to tie your shoes by playing Lights Out.
Yeah. Yeah. And just every once in a while, like whenever the DM decided, you could use a little break to tie your shoes. Like that's what it feels like.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the mind map.
The mind map is cool. I like this. This is a neat way to present information to me. What happens is it's kind of an ongoing codex of characters and events, concepts that are kind of laid out and connected to each other, but updated as you learn new things. You can go in and provide context, and oftentimes when you go and inspect those things, you will be kind of like making a decision. This is where like a little bit of like role playing comes in. Where it's presented like questions like, I saw him sitting on the bed and I consoled him, or I ignored him.
Yeah. Or I punched him in the balls. I said, time to clean house. I want to talk, let me put a pin on that, because I want to talk about that as a mechanical thing in a moment. The mind map is, when you're talking about crazy pills, this was one of the most intense crazy pills feeling I had this morning, mostly because there are a lot of people, again, like the mind map, headline, the mind map in Norco is absolute genius, sets a new standard. It's a journal. This is the same thing you have in any role-playing game that's a journal. Those also get updated, right? Like it's visually presented in a little slightly different way, but it's just giving you the plot threads. I like it. It's fine. It's not, I just don't see how it's revolutionary. It's barely interactive. Like it's a journal. It's just a journal.
And also, like there is mystery in this game, You know, like information is withheld from you as the player and then revealed as the plot, you know, dictates. You are not trying to find the thing you need to input to actually solve this. This is not a detective game. So, you know, you're not referring to this to do anything more than just like orient yourself if you forgot who this particular person was. It is not necessary and core to the experience as the mind map is in something like Pathologic 2. Right.
Yeah. It's not really a mechanic.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a thing. What would happen is I would talk to somebody, they would tell me a new detail about a person, and then it would say mind map updated. And the first time that happened, I then clicked on my mind map thinking it would have additional information, but it was basically a reminder. You know, sometimes there's a little bit of flavor stuff like, oh, I remember this person from when I was younger and I was here, and you'll get it like kind of a little short story, but oftentimes you didn't. You just got the information you just got. And I was like, oh, this is just a quest reminder. You know, like I had bigger expectations based on my reading of it. The way that dialogue is done in this. So this is a way of interacting with this. There's role playing in this game. You know, you brought up before, like I saw them sitting on the bed. You have the option. I console them. I left the room without saying anything. I was trying to think of maybe that is part of what made me feel distance to this character. You know, like I had a way of, I'm like, okay, I would react how I would react in this. Like I'm role playing. I'm going to be Gary doing this thing, but it's never referenced or anything later. As far as I know, like this is not me going to bat for quote unquote choices matter, but it just ends up feeling very shallow if the same thing happens. Like it's all just in my head.
Yeah.
You know, it's all just a role playing thing. I think that if I chose to play, you know, the character Kay, if I chose to play her as like a lapsed religious person, you know, that's a theme a lot of people got from this game, like huge theming, like they just absolutely gutted them with this idea of giving up their religion, coming back and feeling it again when they came home. If I chose to do that, I feel like characters should react to it. You know, as if I'm different, like it should have an effect on the world that I'm crafting a character that's a little bit different, even if it's an illusion, even if it's just other NPCs commenting on it, it would make it feel a little bit less like I was just taking a personality quiz.
Yeah. You know, and not even like, you know, sharing that, not even like as part of a team building exercise, not even to share on my MySpace page, but, you know, just for myself, you know, just a little me.
Yeah. It's just being presented with little prompts. Like, do you want to be, and a lot of them do break down to this, like, were you a jerk or were you gracious? You know, about this stuff. Like I can get down with that kind of role-playing game, that kind of role-playing choice, but it's weird when the game doesn't react to it.
Right.
And it also is a thing too, where like, as I, you know, get older, I start thinking like, oh, like a good game story, like an absolutely A tier, you know, S rank game story, you should have a set character, you know, at least to a degree. Like you can do degrees of manipulation. You can do a Disco Elysium kind of thing, but see our episode on Citizen Sleeper, where like that ended up feeling, at least for me, a little bit less good than it maybe could have, because my guy was just a helper bot.
Yeah.
Like the fact that I was just existed for everyone, and, you know, I did not have a personality.
You were a Johnny Five-esque savior of the world. Yeah.
Yes. This ends up feeling like I'm not really there. I'm just taking an unrelated personality quiz.
Yeah.
You know, they're both different paths to the same kind of distancing effect for me.
Yeah, it felt like a web form that didn't connect to anything. These answers were not being stored at all. I don't know. Again, looking for any kind of connection between stuff that is here. This might just be me, like, I don't know, maybe not putting in the effort or whatever, but a big problem that I end up having when you have a character as a cipher, you know, you're getting their dialogue and seeing them interact with people. I can only read their dialogue just because there's nothing else to inform it. Either, you know, referring back to my my previous choices, or having a very particular established, you know, character history with this person, you know, what have you. You know, this character is anonymous down to the point where all that they're represented as is a, you know, kind of like a, you know, a neutral little smiley face on the front of their face.
Yeah.
I can only read their dialogue kind of in me as my voice kind of flatly reading something. I can't tell like what spin to put on this, and it is entirely flat to the point where there is no drama in it and therefore no catharsis. And that is desperately what I need, catharsis, out of something that is dealing with a tone this melancholy and has this particular setup of, you know, homecoming and rediscovery kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Or is pretending toward those things.
And dealing with real serious real world shit.
Yes.
You want to have that because it's a heightened stake thing.
Right.
So like depending on your choices, your version of Kay might have descriptors, but did not feel like a real person, at least to me. Like my Kay was generally regretful of her relationship with her mother, was unreligious, and was not particularly in a hurry to go back home. Right. So there are those descriptors, but that's not a personality. Those are just choosing opinions on things. You know, I did not get a sense of Kay as a person, like whatsoever.
Yeah.
The mother, you get more of one.
Yes.
You know, it's a better character, I think. That's really it for mechanics. There's we'll talk about a couple specific puzzles, but talking a little bit of sugar. This very beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Like absolutely just these beautiful pixel art illustrations. Started out as these illustrations for, we'll talk about the creation of this game because it's really interesting. Did not start out as video game illustrations.
No.
And I think that's part of why they look so good. Beautiful colors, beautiful atmosphere. Just really, really great looking.
Yeah, the colors very specifically. They do a great job of washing this to make it feel like it is at a particular time of day in a particular place. This is one of the best. This game is one of the best at doing dingy that I've seen.
It's got incredible dinge.
Yeah.
The dank hole, the dank.
It's insane, this game's dinge.
Yeah. The dinge is out of control. If you like dinge. I have literally no complaints about this. I love the grotesque character.
Oh, yeah.
Portraits. Remind me a little bit of a higher fidelity version of Papers, Please. There's a lot of personality suggested in them, even when they only have one or two facial expressions. Like, that stuff's all great.
I'm kind of surprised that the old Legend point-and-click adventure games were not a citation for this.
Yeah, that's a great point. They look a lot like that.
Yeah, Callahan's and I don't know, their Xanth one. Like Xanth one's a bad game, but it looks really good. Yeah.
Yeah, bite your tongue. The other thing that I really like is the way that it is kind of visually mixed media. So when like the format breaks happen, even though what you do in them, other than the combat, which I think is ludicrous, but like when you switch over to like a short story, there's a part where you watch a puppet show and it changes the framing, all that stuff works for me really well.
Yeah.
Visually interesting and makes it work as, when you said this is kind of like a barely interactive poem, those parts are really cool. That is like what I want from an interactive poem. I hadn't thought a lot about what I want from an interactive poem, but that kind of thing is what I want.
Yeah.
Soundtrack also real good.
Yeah.
Full, a lot of earworms, really appropriate. Lots of really great and ambient sound effects that make it feel very lived in.
Yeah, a lot of them taken from field recordings around Norco itself.
Yeah, because of the origin of this, as a documentary, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
The writing in this is fascinating to me because, again, this is something that people run garments about. You and I think have different problems with this. I also don't think that it's particularly coherent in terms of plot or dialogue. My issue with this is the fluidity of it, not the amount of fluoride in it, but how flowery it is.
Yeah.
This gives Stan Lee a run for his money in terms of purple prose.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, a couple of these worked for me. And again, like I'm a poetry appreciator. Like I like poetry. A couple of them worked in a lyrical sense. The issue is it's never turned off.
Yeah.
So every character is like this, basically. Like even, sometimes they're kind of like just homebody, hometown towny barflies, and they won't speak like this, but the narrator is the most, omnipresent voice in this. And it is real, again, just very poetic in its speaking in a way that felt too much
They're capable of turning an incredibly beautiful and evocative phrase, and that is laudatory. I could have dealt with a little bit more discretion in terms of deploying it tactically. This kind of language, I think, is, a very good characterizer, or like should be saved for very heightened scenes, or for something that, absolutely needs to be almost like a pull quote to summarize exactly what is going on here. I'm not saying everybody needs to be in dialect talking like just folks. I'm just saying, something kind of needs to go away to be missed.
It's 100% that. Like, there's no sense of contrast with it. It is nonstop.
Mm-hmm. But, they're trying to set up this Disco Elysium sense of place, kind of deal, but just when I talk about the incoherence, you'll listen to the places where this goes, would we recommend people play this? Like, I'd recommend checking out the first chapter just to get a good feel. Like, I'm asking this because of like spoiler wall kind of stuff.
Yeah. It's short enough and enough people are into it that makes me think that we are probably the outliers.
Yeah, and I'm not going to hold my outlier status against you. You shouldn't hurt yourself and deprive yourself of something cool.
Nah, we can only talk about our place. So worth a try, right? Like, I would say, if anything, adjusting your expectations will probably help.
Yeah.
If I am recommending you play this, don't go into it after reading a year of absolutely breathless praise of it. Because that's what I did and was hugely disappointed. I was expecting to have my heart broken. And I think if you go into it with more modest expectations, you might like it more. And I think I would have liked it more if I went into it with more modest expectations. And that's not really on the game, right? Like,
no.
But at the same time, we're doing this in the context it came out in. We can't ignore, context matters.
No.
To a degree, it's a lens to look at things through. And in this case, the critical consensus about this is where it lives.
No.
So I want to talk about both.
Yeah.
That sense of place that it does is, I think, in terms of sense of place, it's actually pretty successful.
Yes.
Like, in terms of being an interesting place to set a game in, and one that we don't talk about very much and feels like it. And then there's like a robot spy subplot.
Yeah.
And you trick somebody into holding up a head so they get sniped as like the last puzzle of the game. And there's a lot of magical realism to this that just left me fucking super cold. That I didn't want to have be there. That was less grounded and took me away from this feeling of like realistic concerns and real world problems.
Yeah.
And really that sense of community coming together, which is what you want from this. Like, the ideal version of this is you get the sense of, and other people did get the sense of, a place that has been abused by this system, by these economic powers, but still has this beautiful sense of community and that people are still very protective of.
Yes.
And all I came away from it feeling was like, that is a cool place for a story. Boy, that company should just be bombed from the face of the earth, and all these people should move if they can. Like, I understand moving is not easy for people, but I was like, yeah, this fucking sucks, man. Get out of there. Your house keeps flooding, and it's like, I don't know. It's horrible. There are monsters about.
Yeah.
I didn't get this sense of like, no, this is beautiful and it's ours. We're going to fight for it, because the game isn't really about that. There's a weird little thread where it becomes about that for a second. And then you go off to the SpaceX launch.
Yes.
And there's all this other stuff that happens, and there's a magical swamp angel and all this shit. And it just, it goes in too many directions for me, and does not satisfy that arc that it would work with.
And again, this could be called unfair because I'm holding another game against this. Contrast that with Disco Elysium, which, is kind of entirely about Revachol and Martinez, and again, you've got the flowery language that sums it up. Every single ideology has failed this place, but it still stands.
Yeah.
Right. Like,
they're really interesting. So comparing the two games, like, there's a lot to it, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not arbitrary to bring that up, because it does a lot of the same things, and it drew a lot of comparisons in the press. But Disco Elysium, even though you do have role-playing decisions about what kind of person you want to be, you are more of a set character
Yeah.
And what you do absolutely does influence the people around you who react to you.
Mm-hmm.
So the role playing is more satisfying. The mechanics are a lot more robust in that game. There are fail states that create interesting situations. There are no fail states really in Norco. Disco Elysium is also longer and has a wider breadth.
Yeah.
So you get to see how it's affected in all ways. Whereas like Norco ended up being paradoxically something that if it were twice as long, I think would be intolerable, but it might have stood to be an hour longer, you know, and been a little bit better, or at least like an hour more focused.
Yeah.
Like keep your mess, but maybe a little bit more focused. Like Disco Elysium is pretty focused.
Yeah.
You know, on what it's trying to do. Like this is about the after effects on this town. It's not also about X, Y, Z, A, B, and C.
Yeah.
You know?
Norco just kind of, Norco builds like a Potemkin village saying this is Southern Gothic Disco Elysium. And there's nothing behind those storefronts.
It reminds me a little bit of somebody doing their first work and wanting it to be about everything they have to say. You know?
Yeah.
In a weird way, which is a mark, I think, of I understand the mindset that admires that kind of like immature exuberance and like genius that can come from immaturity of like, this is my only chance, so I have to get it all out there. It always just feels to me a little bit like a non-mature voice in art to me to do that.
So writing didn't really land for me.
No, me it did not. Even just in terms of just prose, like there are bits again that worked for me. The moment to moment prose was not drawing me along very well, personally. So the story of this game's creation is really interesting. Norco's lead designer goes by the pseudonym Yutz. They lived in Norco in their life, and in 2015 began working at an art collective called Geography of Robots to make a documentary about how Hurricane Katrina impacted this home region of Norco.
Yeah. And it wasn't just going to be like a film documentary. This was supposed to be, I don't know, for lack of a better word, like an installation kind of thing.
Yeah.
There were going to be a lot of different elements to this. One of which was like an interactive piece, like a video game.
Yes. A side-scrolling adventure game about robots breaking into an oil refinery. This evolved and eventually became the game that it is. So a lot of the art, that we see in this were illustrations for this documentary that just got transformed into this.
Yeah. So like there had been basically the previous project, their initial version kind of became a whole bunch of pre-production for a final product that they didn't initially set out to make, which is a really interesting way to go about it. I think served the product very well by giving them, just a very strong foundation in what this place looks and feels like, even above and beyond, having grown up there and lived there at a couple of other points in their life and just kind of naturally having something to say about the environment that, had left its mark on them. Right.
Yes. Yeah. The best parts of this game, I think you can feel that.
Yeah.
Yutz cites some games as inspiration. We mentioned Deja Vu before, Snatcher as well, as well as Midgar in Final Fantasy VII.
Yes,
with that big pizza, that stratified economy. Even though you don't spend as much time with that as I would think in this.
Yeah.
It's kind of the slums and then Shinra and no upper crust.
Right. Yeah, like you spend a little bit of time in a Eyes Wide Shut party, but that's about it.
Yeah.
In terms of seeing above it. Yeah. But I can see that. I can see how that line plays really well in interviews and stuff.
Yeah.
This had a very small team on it, just including, like most of them. Their only credit is various versions of this game. If you look on Moby Games, right? And a lot of them are pseudonymous, right? You have Yutz, who did the writing and design of this, but also kind of learned digital illustration online to contribute to the art alongside someone named Jesse Jacoby, who was credited as doing pixels and paint.
And then music done by an artist who goes by Gugali, and sound design by FM Ara. There are a lot of interviews This has a lot of back matter. You can check out where Yutz talks about the kind of experience of growing up in Norco, how that translated into the game's details and tone. This is a highly intentional work, which is also something I think people react to. Even if that intention did not work for us, there are things that they're going for in this, and you can read about that. Like there's no coy kind of hiding behind the art in this.
Yeah, which is refreshing, actually.
Yeah, I like it too. Like this is what we were trying to do, you know? Yeah. This was absolutely lauded by critics. Again, a sea change in point and click adventures, the biggest moment in point and click adventures of the decade, all kinds of wild things to say. Lauded for its aesthetics and writing and tone, got compared to Disco Elysium and Kentucky Route Zero. I found this super wanting in comparison to Disco Elysium. I have not played Kentucky Route Zero. It sounds pretty close to that in terms of level of interactivity to me. Kentucky Route Zero is even less so.
Yeah, it's real similar. Kentucky Route Zero, I think there's a certain amount of refuge in the fact that it is so much of an anthology and leans much harder on the magical realism kind of side of things.
Got you.
Yeah.
Maybe one of those things where I realize I don't like magical realism.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. I don't know. I like magic, I like realism. Put them together. Yutz said this is the first part of a trilogy. And based on the response, it seems like that plan will continue. So look forward to Norc 2 and Norc 3. Norco and Norco.
Just eventually all the characters are replaced by ghosts.
Yeah. Why not? It's magical realism. Just do whatever you want. There's robots. There's super spies. Who gives a shit?
So let's get into it.
Yeah. This game is in 3 acts. The first act is called Lowland Ghosts. And we start with a prologue. Story of us. Our character escaped their hometown, left Norco, kind of bummed around America for 5 years, but learned that your mother died and headed back.
Yeah. Get some details about what's happening elsewhere in America. Like the Southwest is kind of descended into this kind of war zone, kind of deal. She ends up kind of going there, hanging around like activists and things like that. Down along the Rio Grande. Like at one point, she throws her phone into the river, and that's why she doesn't learn about her mom's passing for a while.
Yeah. Yep. It's the most dramatic thing you can do with a phone. You throw that symbol into the water.
But what about taking it and then bending it in half backwards?
Oh, see,
and then throwing it into a garbage can.
Yeah, that's pretty good as well. That's more of a crime move.
Yeah.
There is a smiling old man, the face of that haunted you throughout your journey.
Yeah.
Throughout this time, like you're being stalked.
Yeah.
In a weird literal sense, because we'll find out. One of the most outsized characters in this. Yeah, this real goofy, magical mentally unwell, unhoused man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the game begins with you in your childhood bedroom. And there are go ahead.
Oh, no, it's good. No, nothing.
But there's a mini games where you can meet. You've got to learn QTEs by meeting your childhood monkey plush toys gaze, and end up joining it, inviting it to your party.
Yeah, so it can do things. I kept feeling there were a lot of secrets with this monkey that I wasn't doing, and maybe there were. I did not get them.
I don't know.
There's a laptop with a computer, and it's open. You get to see this message board discussion where your brother Blake was having it. Saying about these glowing orbs in the sky, possibly made of glass. These are going to turn out to be weird swamp angel spirit things. You head on down to the living room. You see some documents about this version of Shell oil called Shield Fuels, I think, or Shield Oil, Shield Fuels, something like that. And it's focused on these flare-ups, these health effects that happened. And they talk about this concept of deliberate externality, deliberately polluting in order to reduce the property values nearby to build more of their big sprawling, Petroplex.
Yeah. And imagine me sitting here reading about deliberate externality, like in the first 5 minutes of this game. It's like rubbing my hands together like a fucking sicko. Like, yes, yes.
Baby. It's behind the bastards, the game. Like,
so, just we are fully in the coal is gassed up and ready to go kind of zone.
It kind of explains, like, at least our two different, because I was disappointed in this largely because of the reaction, but this does have, like, the hook at the beginning of this is real, leftist bait.
Yep.
Way, I see that it's, identifying as such, but like, it's real leftist bait.
I'm not going to pretend to be anything that I'm not.
Like, for me, my stomach sank a little bit when you go out back and you talk to the family's robot. I was just like, okay, this is Million. This family's robot. She talks about, all these loose ends that your mom had when you passed. She was doing research for a client in Fat City. Which is going to be, the start of this mystery here. Right. Million is trying to repair this motorcycle so you can use it to get around, but you need a fuse from the discount store.
Yeah. And Million is not like a clunker, this isn't Homer's robot, right?
No.
No, this is like a sleek, like her face looks like a constellation of stars because of all the sensors and stuff in it. Yeah. And Million is hilarious because as she like comes around with you, everybody is saying like, wait, didn't you disappear? Like, aren't you like super sinister? And she says, no. Yeah.
So you think you have another spy bot. So you kind of walk around town here. Outside of the Dimes Discount gas station, there's a film crew doing a very barely disguised version of True Detective.
I love it.
Shooting a murder scene, and the director asks you for advice on regional slang, and you can take the piss out of him. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you say when someone's a real bad guy? Like, this is real funny. There are bits of this that are genuinely pretty funny.
Uh-huh.
I did not get the funny part landed on me. The crying part didn't.
Yeah. But like, I only took like the middle of the road. Like, what would you call a real, just like a real son of a bitch? And I said like, oh yeah, just a real, like crawl baddie or something like that.
He's a bad daddy or something like that. Like, it's great. It's very cute. Nothing comes of this, but it's it's funny.
Yeah.
The guy who runs the gas station is a guy named Troy, real shithead.
Used to run the gas station. His job was made obsolete by the automation.
Yeah. Donarani's burned down. Budolphin burned down. Donarani's out on his ass. Works with his brother now. Used to work there. And he immediately insults your dead mom.
Right.
Here, she's probably vacationing on some hard drive or somewhere. I ask him a little bit about what is going on, to do with this. He's talking about working with her to excavate this lake. They saw some crazy shit when they're out there, but he won't tell you what. And he says, hey, I'll let you in if you give me some pills that your brother's selling. So my brother's dealing. Mm-hmm. I couldn't find a way to get that. So I just fight him, and you immediately get an achievement called Class Traitor.
Yeah.
And I had a real fuck you response to that. He's like, oh, this guy just, my mom died. I just came home. He's the town shithead.
Yeah.
Class solidarity doesn't mean that you put up with abuse.
Nope.
From people.
In fact, I would say that is a way that class solidarity would be used to weaponize and kind of normalize abuse within these structures. Yeah.
I really did not care for that pop-up.
Yeah.
There may be another way to get past this guy. I do not know it.
I couldn't find it. I even because of that, I was like, okay, they wouldn't say that to me if there was if there wasn't an obvious way around this that I just missed. No, as far as I could tell, even looking at walkthroughs, there was no other way around it. So you gotta clock this guy and go in.
Yeah. He is a dick. The story is automated. That's how he lost his job. Burned down out on his ass. The company fired Troy because they went to a robot model where you just do self-checkout.
Yeah.
And you buy the fuse.
By the fuse, and Million repairs the motorcycle so he can go a little bit further out. And Million joins our party here. for a while, and we ride out along the airline highway to go to the paperback store where our brother Blake has been spending all of his time. He's not around the house. He's not been there since we got back. So, kind of need to verify, get proof of life on Blake.
Yeah, can I get a well-being check on Blake?
Yeah.
Million talks about how your mom changed after she discovered something in the lake. Million doesn't know what that was, though.
No.
So you go outside of Sarby Books, and we meet a rideshare driver who is sad, talking about his client.
Yeah.
And one of them sounds like mom, asking random questions about radio signals and sick.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to, find us out later that your mom does use a lot of lifts.
Yeah. It's a primary way of getting around. The bookstore clerk, talks about like, hey, we're old friends. Like, hey, I haven't seen you online very much recently. And not just because people are going around and chopping down cell towers and digging up fiber cables to break down the internet, like just trying to uproot this thing that had become so pervasive.
Yeah. She says Blake must be the tavern by your house. You could check that before, but you couldn't get in.
Mm-hmm.
He gets wasted and the owner lets him sleep behind the bar.
Right.
Eric is very surprised to see Million, your bot, saying she's been out of town, and Million says, you must be mistaken. I've just been in town waiting to strike. There's a pet shop cat here named Crouton.
Love
usually
Crouton
bites
as a
anybody.
name for a cat.
Oh, Crouton's a great name for a cat.
Yeah.
You pet it and you have to do QTEs as the cat gets more and more excited. She begs you to stop. And then what you do is you pet the cat until it blows up like a rocket and launches through the roof. And then she's real mad at you. She's like, I told you to stop petting my cat. You get a phone case from it. This is the kind of goofy tone shit we're dealing with. That's like funny, but like absolutely out of, again, fucking magical realism, man.
Mm-hmm.
I just, and the character is like, I told you to stop messing with my cat. I'm still mad at you. And I'm like, your cat just took off like a rocket. What is this, a fucking Xanth novel? Like, why did this happen? It's just it's a tonal swing that is so hard for me to hold on to.
Shouldn't you be calling a contractor for that roof or skylight unless the skylight was open?
Just like, I don't know why they had to make it be this silly little Easter egg. Like it's the kind of thing they would put in a video game where if, you click on Rebecca Chambers' picture 37 times and you get a comment,
yes.
that kind of thing. And like, I don't know. It just gives you a Crouton phone case, which is what I use for the rest of the game.
Of course.
Because go Crouton.
Yeah. But like it's treated like an Easter egg, but like, I don't know, video gamers, two things you're not going to avoid is petting a cat and escalating challenge on a QTE. Right.
Yeah.
Like, okay, cool. So there's just another step every single time and I keep petting this cat and it gets funnier. Like there's no way, like I haven't checked the percentages on the Steam achievement or whatever it is, but
everybody killed this cat.
The cat shows up
everybody
later.
clubs this cranium. The cat didn't show up for me later. When does the cat show up?
You know what? I'm thinking of a flashback. That cat's absolutely suffocating and in orbit.
The cat's fucking dead, dude.
Yeah.
That cat has now been turned into petrol fuel by the evil corporation.
Yeah.
They caught it in their Skynets and they're now transferring its bioessence into fuelicules. It's
you see Creep Brute in the voodoo shop downtown in the flashback sequences.
Gotcha. So Million worries Blake isn't just missing because of a drunken night out.
Yeah. I want to draw a line here. Like the flashback stuff is cool, but like when I talk about Act 1 really singing in this, aside from Million and just how obviously suspicious she is, like, okay, cool. There's a bunch of cool stuff set up. There's a mystery here. Our brother's probably gotten in trouble around town. Southern Gothic neo-noir kind of thing. Like, let's fucking go, man.
Yeah.
So like when I was singing this game's praises, this is about the point that I was at.
Yeah. It's a thing too, where like I get self-conscious. We all have an inner critic. We all have I make fun of myself for having a straw man. Like, who am I trying not to get yelled at by? Right.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel sometimes like my inner critic yells at me when I'm like, I wish this was a little bit more of a straight putt, because what you just described, the setup, if it just executed on that, this could be great.
Oh yeah.
Even chapter 2 of this is really good, or not chapter 2. Rather the second part of chapter 1.
Mm-hmm.
This flashback is cool. Like it is very compelling to play both the subject of the mystery and the person who is trying to solve it.
Mm-hmm.
and like let those two things inform each other. That's really interesting. So we play half this game as the mom, as Catherine. Yes. I also think Catherine's a way better character.
Oh yeah,
than Kay. Like Catherine has a personality and it comes across in the dialogue.
Yeah.
We start off, we're playing as the mom, and she's at an imaging clinic. This is a thing that you can do in this dark future. She's working with a technician to preserve memories for her kids.
Right.
And you get to choose what you decide to save. Of these images for your kid, what to save and what to forget. It's not a mechanical thing. You don't have like limited space or anything. This does not come up. This is purely role playing. Do you want to give your kids the whole picture, or do you want to try to save them from the more difficult parts of your life?
Yeah. And you're also like making choices about the disposition of stuff, right? So, the broad strokes of this are she had a really troubled relationship with her father and pretty much married, Blue, her husband, right away. And you can decide like how much of that was out of convenience to get out of the house, how much of that love was real, just to like how deep did the estrangement go, things like that. And you establish these details and then decide if that is something you want the kids, to have as this lasting legacy kind of deal. This to me brought up because AI is so much fucking everywhere. Just these news stories about like, oh, make sure you get recordings of your grandparents right now. So when they're gone, you can consult them for advice later. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah, that is a dystopic.
Fred Astaire dancing with a vacuum, motherfucker.
I can't wait to have grandma kissing an electric shaver and a Pepsi ad that's like served up for me next time I ask for advice.
Yeah.
Hey, grandma, do you have some advice? I think you should buy some Pepsi. Grandma, you've been pitching that all night. Damn it.
Yeah, great thing about grief is the person you're grieving is gone, and you're able to heal. Yeah,
it's funny too because like this game obviously deals with grief, and the person who wrote this, like their very real experience of it, and a lot of people who read reviews of it or wrote reviews of it talked about how this reflected on their grief or like their anxiety about this. I've done a homecoming trip to bury my mom. And none of this stuff really rang true or good for me. And the idea of having an AI that I could ask my mom questions about is about the bleakest, worst thing I could think of for my recovery from that. Like if that were available, that's miserable. That would not have done me good.
Can't say that's the case for everybody. Not going to speak for everybody. It just runs so counter to every experience I have ever had with losing somebody.
It feels really unnatural and not bad just because it's unnatural, but like, I don't know. I don't want it to blanketly turn me into a conservative or something, but like the idea that like, oh, the way that we have grieved people for the entirety of our lives, maybe that is a good way. Maybe that is the human way to do it. I don't know. But it seems like the opening up an AI for my dead mother to advertise how good Amazon Prime is to me. And if you don't think that's what it'd be used for, you're fucking naive.
Yeah.
No dice.
Get grandma with special offers.
We have to get the collector's edition of grandma. You can upgrade for the no ads. The in-app purchases on grandma. Jesus fucking Christ, Black Mirror. What if your mom had a Wi-Fi? This is basically that.
What if your mom was Wi-Fi?
Yeah, like that's basically Jesus Christ, man. This is bleak. Hate it. The important plot detail that's not important, but the background detail that's revealed here is the father, Blue, died in the refinery explosion.
Yes.
She also has the same memory of the smiling old man that we knew, but she doesn't know who he is.
Right.
She thinks Blake also saw him, but Million wasn't around to protect him. This is kind of foreshadowing. Very weirdly important old man. Million used to work at the refinery with Blue and came as a fugitive after his death, came to the family.
Yeah, saying Blue's death was a mistake. Right. Or no. Catherine.
Taking him in.
Yeah, taking Million in was a mistake, is what Catherine says.
But now we're just stuck with this ever-growing super bot. I can't do nothing about it. It'll just overpower me. We see an image of what Catherine was looking at to identify this like glass orb that followed her above the lake.
Right. Things get kind of weird here, and we start like answering questions about, things that we don't have context for, talking about how Duck's version escaped, Duck being a person that she knows, and grew into some kind of humanoid monster. This thing that Duck's version, quote unquote, grew into told her to download this app, which she believes has something to do with the spear, but also it pays in this cryptocurrency.
It's also like TaskRabbit.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is, again, we talk about just touching on themes, but not going anywhere. This is we're joking about AI grandma.
Mm-hmm.
The game incorporates AI grandma anxiety. Mm-hmm. There's one AI person, they turn into this horrible eldritch monstrosity due to the singularity. The people who have the intended effect for the singularity, it's just sad. Like their voices are confused and scared.
Yeah.
But the game's not about that.
No.
Right? Like Soma's about that.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't. This game just touches on it. It just wants to borrow a little bit of that steez, but it's just all part of the gumbo of just themey leftist bait that is in this.
Yeah.
So the session ends. You talk to the attendant. The attendant is all kind of like wobbly here about what you've done.
Yeah. And this is where we get the first inkling that like, this is not really an above the board kind of thing. We're getting side effects now. And this head drive that her memories were loaded onto, she could only afford the silver tier. But there's like no adware blocking services. Everything is provided as with and without warranty.
Yep. Yeah. So she's got the Kaiser bronze plan, basically. Again, it's cool to see a game deal with that kind of shit. You poke through her phone. That is her primary kind of mode that she has. You get to see messages between her and her kids. The one with her and Kay is heartbreaking. It's very sad.
Yeah.
Text to this person named Duck, him warning her not to get involved with Super. We don't know who Super is yet. It turns out it's Super Duck.
Yeah.
And her billing alerts show that she has a lot of medical debt.
Yeah.
At this point before she dies, we do not even have enough money to get a ride home. It is just, real bleak.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also showing the way the debt compiles, like you owe money and then the interest rates come and it just keeps going and going up. Again, cool thing for a game to fuck with, but it doesn't do anything to make you feel it. Compare like obviously the big example of economic anxiety felt in a game is Cart Life. Where it has similar kind of themes, but it actually integrates.
Yes. Yeah. This is just kind of here, eventually after, it is literally just a guise for you to start doing these little TaskRabbit things through an app called Quack Job, right? Kind of assigning these random tasks and then paying you in this cryptocurrency. Like you've got to go and do a few of these little odd jobs here, which are going to advance the plot for you, in order to even get a ride home. Right. So you need to go find this other quack jobber at this place called the Curious Duck.
Yep. So you walk out, you head to the French Quarter and run into various, people trying to kind of scam you a little bit. There's a hot dog vendor who's selling these incredibly old hot dogs. This will come up later in a funny way. There is a unhoused person dressed up as Santa who is begging for money, who is weird Negro. Yeah. I think this comes up later. I did not give them my $1.
No, neither did I. I think I gave the $1 to the guy who was sitting by the hot dog stand.
Same.
Yeah. And then there was a fake tour guide, mostly pointing out t-shirt shops. They were doing this job because they were a friend who owed a favor to the actual tour guide who was sick.
Yeah. The Curious Duck, where we go in, is actually closed. And the hot dog vendor says there's a secret knock, but he's not going to teach me unless I buy a hot dog. The hot dog is $14. We don't want one of these hot dogs. They're a decade old. They've just been floating in water forever. So we say we'll send some business his way. This ends up, this is a kind of adventure gamey puzzle. On your way out, you see that there is a puppet show that's there. You can go in on the way out. And you can stop and watch this puppet show. Apparently there are these like people gather around for these under the overpass public puppet shows.
Yes. And this is neat. We go in and it's this, we, get this kind of shadow puppet thing against signage as the backdrop that kind of shifts around, where the narrator is this alligator kind of doing this little parable story about a shrimper who had killed all of the alligator's children. And then the man had captured her and held her as a pet. The shrimper did.
Yep. She got out and the man looked for her. And she said to the man, I'll return. I'll be your pet. I'll do whatever you want as long as you kill the shrimper who killed my kids. So you control this little boat, kind of preparing you for this puzzle at in the end of the game. The swamp, you go to the shrimper and the shrimper says that gator lied to you. The gator killed my kid. I killed the shrimper at this point because I wanted to be on Team Gator. But when you head back, you say, hey, I killed that shrimper. And she kills you anyway.
Yeah. Saying like,
she eats you.
I've got no patience for, disobedient dogs. Right.
Yeah. Real scorpion and, turtle. Or scorpion and frog kind of thing.
Yeah. I was not going to repay you for keeping me, prisoner kind of deal.
Yeah.
And there's there's some parallels between this and the overall plot, especially with Catherine following the orders of Super Duck, obviously through this Quack Job app. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You punish a person for dreaming the dream. You can't expect them to think and forgive you.
Yeah.
So the vendor, or at this point, after the show, after this puppet show, there's a roadie who gets impatient. He's hungry. So you say, hey man, there's a hot dog vendor right down there. Good hot dog. Send him down there. We go to the vendor. He shares the secret knock, which is just knock, 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 knock. And this is cute. You're like, this is how everyone knocks. This is it's funny.
Yeah.
You get into the Curious Duck.
Yeah. It's like a voodoo store that mostly sells cheap shit and is closed all the time, that we're going to find out just exists because it is a meeting spot for people on this app. They get kickbacks from it. Right.
Yep.
Crouton's waiting on the counter inside. Right. And the fortune teller woman, Rosie, only appears when you try to touch her crystal ball. She's very fixated on how greasy your hands are. And says, the person you're looking for is this guy named Dallas. He's waiting outside.
Yep. You can ask what Quack Job is, and she says it's an AI. It has these nodes all over the place. This all used to happen on Craigslist, but this is taken over for that. We head out, we learn that our next job is to go to the Eagle Wholesaler together to get an orientation. So we head outside. And when you get there, you get like a very good, like a resting image of this weird plant monster thing in here who is very friendly with you. Has like an eagle face, this big bird monstrosity, and says, Catherine, you made it. Again, very on board. I was like, okay, my mom's doing a mystery. She went into the thing, found this Eldritch fucking thing in the warehouse. This is great.
Yeah.
On board. Starting Act 2, Refinery Eyes here.
Yeah. Where we are trying to get into the Floodgate Tavern, right? We show up here and Millian draws our attention to this patron, that she knows, this guy, private detective Brett LeBlanc. We can ask the bartender right away, like, hey, is Blake here? And like, no, he hasn't shown his face here forever. Like, he tried to steal the register one night.
Yes. Yeah. He's been kicked out. LeBlanc's a really good character in this. I like LeBlanc a lot.
I didn't expect him to be as major as he is.
Yeah, me either. But good character. He knew your mom, and he wants you to keep buying him drinks and snacks. And he's a funny character. Like, keeps complaining about what you got.
Just like, man, I could really use a snack here. You buy him a snack, the fries because they're the cheapest. And he's like, well, I don't really like the fries here, but I can't hold that against you.
It's cute.
Yeah.
The Barflies talk about this local legend. Spread with this guy named Paw Paw. And that Paw Paw said that she, your mom, and her line were descended from Christ.
Like in that movie with the volleyball. No, a different one.
Yeah, that's very funny.
Yeah. Something to do with, the Cajuns being, descended from the Da Vinci Code.
It's Da Vinci Code yet.
Yeah. So the other the Barflies are trying to draw your attention to this, including a guy named Keith, who will factor in a little bit later. He's like a conspiracy theory kind of guy.
Yeah. He's going to make his own website, his own infotruth.com kind of thing.
Yeah. LeBlanc, saying like, yeah, my office looks out on your mom's yard. Shortly after she passed away, I saw Shield security walking into the house and then coming out with a box. They went in there and grabbed something that was really, they thought would be really important. And this is where they start talking about the regional CEO, Laura St. Clair, who had kind of become obsessed with Catherine.
I cannot with the ins and outs of the family drama of this fucking fake oil company.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know why we spend so much time with it, but you can ask everybody about like, oh, so what's going on with St. Clair? And it's like, well, the board of directors can't get rid of St. Clair because the father put her in charge, but they don't like her. Like there's all of this, there's a lot of information about it. And I kept expecting it to come up or to have some kind of emotional resonance, but it's such a nothing thread of this. I actually forgot about it until we were recording how often you can just like be like, so what's going on with the board meetings at this place?
It's a red herring, right? Like this is and it's part of the way that the game, the ultimate product that we get does a little bit of a disservice to the promise that it makes or the setting or what have you. And just in my opinion, where Shield Oil it gets so backseated as a factor in all this, right?
Which it's a pretty interesting thread. This and having this stuff about the family drama made it feel like there was going to be more to that for me.
Yeah.
St. Clair's father founded a bionics company making robots just like the one you have. Hint. Million, she's a loose cannon. And he tells you that the regional headquarters for that is on refinery grounds, this old plantation house.
Yeah. And Keith, who's listening in, he's starting this conspiracy website. He mentions Duck, who is apparently somebody that Kay, our character should know. He was recently stricken with cancer. Like, you probably, if you're looking for stuff about your mom, you should probably go talk to him.
Yeah. The cancer. He knows all about that. So you check your mind map for memories of Duck and you realize he lived in a boarded up house over in the Dimes, which you go find. This is a section that was absolutely bought out and destroyed. It's closest to the refinery.
Yeah.
He's in the house sitting in the dark. And he starts talking about Super Duck. There's Duck and Super Duck. A head drive dump that he did. He made it the same clinic that your mom went to, took on a life of its own.
Yeah.
He says that shit in my head is spreading like a virus.
Right.
So this thing, just keep track of the threads here. This thing where people are creating AI grandmas, to talk and advertise Pepsi can sometimes become super sentient and start its own app and become a sinister app. I cannot stress this enough. The game is not about that.
Nope.
It's like, that is not the antagonist. This is just a little side thing that the developers also happen to be interested in.
Yeah. So it is a snapshot of his memory that got connected to the internet and started self-propagating.
Yes.
And again, you have this heightened realism, this is where like the fantasy sci-fi stuff comes in. We're going to see, we actually saw that in the flashback. It's, affecting biological things. It is propagating into living beings in a really scary way.
Yep. It becomes a mind net with birds.
Yeah. So Kate, kept talking to her about how Super Duck, was talking to her over the radio. Right. Kind of dangling this money that had accumulated, tempting her, because she didn't want to leave debt to Kay and Blake. She just, it had leverage. Right.
Yep. Yeah. So he asked for his help in getting into Shield headquarters. He says, Shield has an interest in her. She was investigating some kind of UFO out in the lake.
Yeah.
Shield bought out the neighborhood. Duck ended up behind their firewall. So him being a holdout, and not moving helped. His computer in his library just has access to the Shield network.
Yeah.
So you end up getting a little puzzle here. This map of the neighborhoods around the headquarters and the drones that patrol them. So you move the drones away from the area you need to get into.
Right.
A little bit of puzzle here is that you have to make sure that the other drones next to them are not at maximum capacity. Because then they will bleed one onto the it's automatically allocated. You have to bypass the automatic allocation.
Yeah. Pretty simple logic puzzle to figure out. They give you plenty of options. Like there are a few different ways to solve this. Yeah. So Duck tells this story, about Kate's dad. This is, the legend that was spread by Pawpaw, right? Kate's dad had stolen this ruby ring and claimed that it was evidence that he descended from this Cajun royalty, right? And after he passed away, Kate took it in to be appraised and learned that it was this fake gem. But she still wore it around her neck and, in fact, was buried with it.
Yep. Yeah. We also learned Blue was interred at this mausoleum nearby. If you go to the mausoleum, Blue's crypt has been tampered with. Yeah. You kind of open it, you need a pry bar to get in there, but it's already been fucked with.
Yeah. There's a pry bar in the yard and you can go and open it up. And this is the family's crypt. Kate had been buried there, but her body's been taken. Her casket is gone. All that is left is this ruby ring and a note. The note reading, "Beloved Kay, her remains are safe. You'll be reunited with your family soon," which is a bone-chilling thing to read on a note near a missing coffin.
Yeah. It's being reunited is no good.
Yeah.
In this scenario. The thread I wanted the game to keep going for, my favorite one, starts here. And you might meet my favorite character in the game. So the news of the bar was talking about this pipeline explosion. There's this oil pirate named Lucky. He's the suspect. So we figure out where to find Lucky. Duck tells us, where to find this. He'd be the one to help to get into the refinery. So we go behind the Dimes discount and talk to an old man there. He admits, I do the pipeline job, but I'm looking for a missing dog. This is nonsense. I mean, this is just adventure game tasks. There's a dog outside the bookstore that some kids find. You go buy dog food, bring it to him, and then you bring the dog to Lucky. This gets Lucky to join you. Lucky is great. I adore Lucky. I am way into this version of this where you just blow up pipelines and sabotage the refinery.
Not even to make a point about it, because you can talk to him about it. It's like, oh yeah, they there'd be no jobs here if Shield went away, but he's just a criminal. He just does that because that's what Lucky does. Lucky loves danger.
Yeah, I adore Lucky. It's this weird, just kind of very relatable striking out, and not thinking about it. There's a part where you're like, did you blow this up? And I think Lucky at some points, Lucky blows up lots of things. I'm like, fuck yeah, Lucky.
Yeah.
I adore Lucky and wanted to have this party of saboteurs, eco-terrorists.
Yes. Yeah.
Again, though, I cannot stress this enough. The game isn't about that.
No.
Or it is, but it's as much about that as is anything else. This idea of this is the first work and it has to be about everything, meaning nothing could be, brought to a conclusion, is really on display here.
Yeah. Yeah. Introducing somebody like Lucky as a small little part of it when this, could be about, there could be a whole story about him. Yeah.
Lucky gives you 2 grenades, which you can use basically to bypass a couple combats. There are too many people for the bike, so we have to go back to the house and have Million fix up the truck, which we do. And as we're driving the truck to get there, Lucky talks about, or as we're waiting for it to be fixed, rather, Lucky talks about how S.H.I.E.L.D. wants to get off oil. Too much. They built these wind turbines out in the Gulf, and they're building a brain. And you could be like, what does that mean? And he just keeps saying a brain. All the refiners are there. They're trying to find fuel in space. They're going to go off and mine other planets.
Just talking about the frontier of prospecting is going to leave this place behind, just like so many other things have left this behind.
Which is again a real thing and leftist bait. There are people talking about the solar system has 1 monetized planet and 8 waiting to be monetized.
Yep.
Yeah. As you drive out, your monkey flies out of the back of the truck into the lake. Don't know what purpose this holds you. I know you can find it again, but I don't know what it's doing thematically or for anything. But it happens. You go to the refinery, and there are these sentinel guards out in front that you just have to fight. Take them out. You take them out, and then you have free reign over the place.
Right. And then we go to an extended Catherine flashback here, kind of in the middle of the chapter. Picking up right where we left off, this huge bird that Catherine had found in the warehouse is one of the current nodes, kind of a current body of Super Duck, saying, hey, I've got this job that's going to solve all of your problems before you die.
Yep. I know you saw the stone. I like the stone, but the stone has evaded me. I really like the way that it talks. It's very friendly.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
It talks about how it is a distributed AI, an internet of flesh.
Love that.
Distributed across the birds. Incredible idea. Cannot stress this enough. The game isn't about it.
Not about it.
This would be a really cool thing to fully explore.
It is just there to give us this poetic beat about how all of this cannot stand in the face of divine light.
Yes.
Yeah.
So there's a character named Kenner John introduces. Kenner John has the stone. Influencer, dopamine fiend, convince himself he has faith in God, convince others. So we had to find John. John's followers are currently gathered at a dead mall in Kenner. We had the stone is there. And the bird says, I want to eat it, which I love.
Well, because it's a bird. It wants to eat the shiny thing.
Yeah. So we have to get in there. Get into that mall.
Yeah. And it is guarded. The front entrance, the obvious one, is guarded by two kids named Garretts, who are not going to let us into the mall. Two kids with dorky haircut, kind of maladjusted, who are both call themselves Garretts. They're dressed up like Best Buy employees. They're in khakis and
Proud Boys.
Yeah, like Proud Boys, Jordan Peterson kind of things. And now we're in something that is addressing this particular leftist anxiety, which is what happens when you have a bunch of maladjusted youth who fall under the sway of a very charismatic fascist.
Again, real stuff and a cool thing for a game to be about.
But it's not about that.
But it's not about that. Like, I want it to be about that.
Yeah.
If you, again, and I'm sympathetic to the idea of somebody who's just comfortable with this melange of things. I just really want them to connect and complete.
These Garretts don't feel like they're from this region. Like, they don't feel like they spring from Norco or Louisiana itself. Like, they feel like they are imported. They're bussed in from a different setting.
Norco has a population of like 2,000.
Yeah,
it's real weird that it can support a whole gang of Proud Boys.
Yeah,
basically. So they're just little assholes. They're little twerps.
Yeah.
You had to become a Garrett by downloading John's app, Kenner John's Apocryphon, here, and seek out his virtual sculptures. So it is time for a fairly irritating egg hunt kind of thing.
Yeah, going to places and looking through the AR screen on your cell phone to figure out.
To find a shadow on ice that's floating in the middle of the thing. We're looking for the first one. We find Keith, one of the barflies, hanging out in the nearby parking lot, investigating the mall. And he's again left his bait. Cool nip. I go, this is a textbook adrenochrome harvesting facility.
Yep. There we go.
So Keith's not necessarily one of the good ones. He's an old friend of your mother. Now your mother's meeting him. It's the first time, and you used to be buddies. And this is a way that your friends from high school grow up to be horrible QAnon shits.
Yeah. The first sculpture is in the driveway of this house where a kid named Bruce used to live. Bruce is now Garrett. We're going to meet him later on. This is where he lived before he joined a cult. And we can kind of sneak into his garage here. His dad talks about how he misses him. We can actually record a message here to bring to him later. But oh man, I didn't write down what the first scripture was. No, I did. Sorry. So the scripture is the second person narrative, kind of talking about this, disaffected young man who leaves home but doesn't really fit in. He tries to go to bars, but people call him a dweeb. Ends up in a fight.
People call him like a Nazi and a racist. Like he's a Nazi racist.
Yes.
And people have been calling them mall Nazis. Like, this little bit about getting into a fight it's because he's mouthing off about he's being racist. And this puts him in a coma for 10 days. and then he decided to get revenge on the venue by calling the cops.
Yeah.
At every show on this bar until it got shut down.
Yeah. And this is just a favorite pastime of these guys. Yeah. Cool scripture, guys. This is your Jesus. Okay.
Yeah. The other one, there's a little word that's bolded that says Saint Somewhere. This is a bar downtown. And when we go there, outside, there is says a drug dealer named Ditchman stole the device that projects the sculpture. He hangs out by the mall. I'm pretty into the idea of Ditchman.
I don't like who Ditchman ultimately ends up being.
No. But just the phrase.
Yep.
It's got Chowderman appeal.
Yeah.
Like something in like the scummy Mega Man, like enemies. It's also here. Did you talk to the roadie here?
Man, there's the roadie. He's like, why did you send me to eat that stuff?
If you go that's very funny. If you go down the whole thread, you can be like, what happened? He's like, and he basically shits himself. Like fucking crazy. Like, and you're like, oh, you found a toilet, right? He's like, no.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's a great story. Some kids were in a limo and the kids get out and he gets in the limo and takes a shit. And then the limo driver locks him in. And this is deft writing and very funny and good.
Yeah. You know what? I was a real wuss on this one. I think he's, just started talking about so what happened? Like, oh, I got really sick. And then there was an option to press for more details and I didn't, which is a fool move. I should have.
It's very funny.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing where this game is funny when it's not leaning on magical realism so hard. Like contrast this with the comedy beat of the cat exploding.
Yes.
That just felt like dumb little random to me. Whereas this is like pretty well observed humor. Like it's very relatable. Eat a bad hot dog, got to find a place to shit and end up like in serious trouble.
Yeah.
It's a real cute story.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, so should in a world post West of Loathing Spittoons, I should pull every gross thread in a game that gives me.
Oh yeah. Especially this game, like there's no fail states in this or anything.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have the courage. In Disco Elysium, you would take damage from this. It would have real results.
Yeah. He had a heart attack when he heard about a bad shit.
Yeah. Relatable.
Yeah. But Ditchman, he loves his ditches. We got to go to this canal. That's near there. And this sculpture talks to us about the kid finding other Garretts. One of whom, was a big fan of this Kenner John guy, this preacher, and would project his sermons onto the wall, from his little phone, and he called for them to find his ziggurat, in quotes, that he had made in the promenade to learn more secrets of the faith. So this Kenner John had figured out I've got this fan base that will do anything I say. Let's bring this from cyberspace into meat space, baby.
Yep. As you read this, a really great little interface thing.
Oh, this is so creepy.
This is real great. The Pawpaw Ditchman just slides into view. It's real good.
Like he's on a little dolly.
And everything he says is great and intriguing until we reveal who he is.
Yes.
And the fact that he is the main antagonist of the game and all of that is just so unsatisfying to me. Yeah. But early on, where he's just like swearing constantly. He's like, well, what do you think about Johnny? Don't you just hate him? Real fuck, isn't he? Yeah, Ditchman.
Yeah, right on. Yeah.
I had Big Lucky vibes from Ditchman, and I was just like, Ditchman and Lucky together at last. Like, just give me these two characters blowing up refineries and being shits and dealing drugs. Like,
yeah, let
me roll around in this scudge, get this religion, this floating sphere and the bird net. And all this stuff off my game.
Please.
Like, this is what I want.
I want these low lives. Yeah.
Yeah. I was into the low life factor.
Yeah. He says that he's been to see Kay. She's well. Real creepy shit. Says that it's his duty to protect the children. He can help us protect the children. I can get you this boat to the mall. But Kate, being a character who as a character, refuses help. Like, okay, this is an obvious way in, but like, no, I just if it involves doing anything for you, I'll figure something out.
Become a Garrett. Yeah. The scripture talked about something projected onto the sky above City Hall, in the basement beneath it. So you go to City Hall. You go and you talk your way past the security guard there. And we get this like text adventure sequence, which I find very tedious as well. You have to go through each level in turn. You go down to the basement and the guy gives you a sequence of numbers. They'll get you to the roof. There are different floor numbers you go to, but the stairwells are all dark. We didn't even mention this. You have a companion during this.
Dallas.
Dallas, the other TaskRabbit guy. Kind of a nothing character. Dallas. There's a little bit to him. You can go and visit his family.
Yeah.
When he mentions them, and you get kind of a sweet scene there, but there's not a whole lot to Dallas. Well sketched.
Well sketched. He, he primarily is just as baffled as you are about all the stuff that's going on, but he doesn't question it because this is kind of the only way that he has to make a living, right? Just, if I ask questions, then this is cut off,
Yep. Yeah. So you go in the dark where, into these different floors, and you have to shake the hands of the right people who are hanging around in the dark.
Yeah.
You shake the hands on floors 2, 5, and 6. They're just hanging out. Permanent installation, I guess, here. To reach the planner on floor 7, and when you shake his hand, they pull Kate to the ground. The last person. Dallas has to help you, and the planner gives you a key to go to the roof. So you can get up there.
Yeah. And the third sculpture is in the sky above the Superdome, where the Saints of Football play. Yeah. And this one is a little bit more arcane, talking about how New Orleans is the lowest world and the Garretts are stuck in it. But the first of the faithful are living in cavities of the Martian moon. And they talk about, there is a way to commune with them from here through the Adamic language of the angels and spellcasters who know God's mind. And the way to do that is to find this chrism that is in this fluid that John must imbibe. It is an egg that floats in the sky.
Yeah. The Garretts are building a spacefaring ark, a vessel to leave the Earth, and they'll labor for 898 days to complete the ark.
Right.
But when we go back, this is a big shaggy dog thing. When we go back to, prove our faith, the kids are gone. So we basically have to go in Papa's boat.
Yeah. Riding down that ditch.
Yep. Yeah. So we go back as K. We're on the refinery grounds, and it looks like we have a choice here. We can either head straight for the plantation or deal with the guards and fight the guards, or use this mover on the crane to get in to cause a distraction. The mover is this big half robot thing that Million awakes with a shriek. It speaks apologetically to us how we have to descend into the water to find the flame.
Not apologetically, apocalyptically, and it is just it's just speaking in this poetry, like literally foreshadowing things that we are going to see when we venture out onto Lake Pontchartrain.
Which would be if not everybody spoke this way.
Right. Talking about finding not just flames, but whole hurricanes, down there, patterns of light that form a shape of the old bayous, like literally just laying out things that are going to happen. How this has, this information is not explored, not necessary to be explored, but it is just kind of a moment of foreboding and ominousness.
Yeah. There are mall eyes and ditch eyes and bayou eyes, and your eyes are refinery eyes.
Right.
We find a panel on the catwalk here, enter a command prefix for the mover's numerical code. Lucky just guesses for this because he didn't know there's a second code. You had to choose the path. And the crane puts the mover straight into the Good Hope flare, causing a distraction.
Cooking the robot. And I love Lucky's line here. Guess that's what happens when you talk your poetry to old Lucky.
Fucking love Lucky. However, there's something called a drone priest. I cannot stress this enough. The game is not about this. A rogue drone comes called the drone priest with his 2 acolytes, which we had to fight for this boss fight in the middle of this, where you just throw a grenade and then punch them. Do Simon to punch them. It is abstract nonsense.
It is quite strange. Yeah.
Then you can head to the plantation.
Yeah.
You get there. The doorman of the plantation has this huge bulbous head and gray face because he's wearing these masks. This is the masquerade of the refinery flame. And says you guys are just in costume as vagabonds of the highway. And this is like an Eyes Wide Shut party that you referred to earlier.
Yeah. And like right inside, there's a man in a bird mask who talks about the currents of deceit in the air. This is Laura St. Clair's dad, the one who is kind of working athwart his daughter. He started the surveillance bot kind of thing. He's here like this is the one time of year where he can actually be on the grounds and be near his daughter.
Yeah. His daughter wants to find this unnatural technology that they found in the swamp, use it to power their fleets to get S.H.I.E.L.D. off of Earth to mine the planets.
Yeah. And her father Thomas, aka him, wants it for his own reasons.
Wants the orb. Yeah. There's a guy named Bruce here who is now a Garrett, who's dressed like a king on the balcony, like an Acne king. And talks about how power is the very essence of life. One thing I like about the writing of this is everyone who's around him is fucking over it. The Guy Fawkes mask revealing Joker makeup or Joker makeup, and everyone's sick of his shit. Like nobody likes the Garretts, which I like.
Well, he's talking to these people, and it's like, you're like, why in the fuck are you talking about power? Like, what if
it's very similar to Dennis going back to the high school reunion?
I am a golden god. I need to bind my minions.
Be bound. I like to bind. I like to be bound. Like him just losing his mind at not having people subservient to him.
Yeah. So he's pretty much gone. We find out that he is Laura's assistant. And we can use to get a hold of his head for a retina scan. We could get into the inner quarters, get into her office. Turns out he passes out drunk near the elevator. So this is easy enough.
What a quinky dink. We go up into the elevator and we go into Laura's room, and she's there. She's avoiding the party. She's also a defeated poet. Yes. Talks about everything getting very vague. She's jealous of the light, and the fact that it went to Kate, your mother, and not her.
Right.
She eventually says, you're here for the box, take the box.
Right.
Here.
Yeah, there's no fight or anything. And as you go to leave, her parting words are, don't trust her. And when you're in the hallway, we hear a gunshot. She has shot herself.
Yeah. We spent a lot of time learning about the inner machinations of this corporation.
Yeah.
And she shot herself. And again, it's supposed to be shocking or sad. I could not give less of a fuck because she's not a character. When she says don't trust her, she's talking about Million.
Yes.
The box has all this ephemera in it, including this Dimes discount loyalty card. At this point, Lucky and Potts is the dog, leave when we get outside. He says keep a low profile. And the Lucky portion of the game is now over. It sucks.
Yeah.
Give
me the Lucky spinoff, damn it.
Yeah. The discount card, I didn't try it at the gas station here because I had already opened up the slot for it. At the house, there is this little Virgin Mary statue.
Yeah.
And if you fuck with it, its faceplate comes off and it has a card slot. So
it's
I had
a
done
cool image. Yeah.
Yeah. It looks great. Like some kind of bionic techno android Virgin Mary, which I can get down with. Use this card reader in that.
Yeah.
And it opens up a secret room in the attic.
It's like a little hatch that goes down to a hidden room, kind of implied to be like a dead space between a couple of other rooms, closet kind of deal. And like this is a little like techno den. You turn on the computer here, and the head drive that is attached to it starts speaking to you, but has been garbled by adware. And it screams, get the robot, get Million away from her. And then Million's head cracks open, revealing this glowing core inside, and Million bears down on us. Yep.
Dun is going to turn up into being nothing. We get helped, and Million's dead. The end. Instead, though, we do a Catherine flashback here at the mall. Pawpaw's rung us down the canal to John's skull. Foreshadowing what's going to happen to John.
Yeah.
Pawpaw says that, if you expose the cult as hypocrites to themselves, they'll break up.
Yeah.
So you install a tape recorder app on your phone.
Right. We can land here. Knowing that I have this, recorder, and I talked to somebody who said, "Man, I really wish I could say something to this cultist." I go back to Bruce's dad and record his message, saying, like, just sorry for everything I said. I just want you back, love you, kind of thing, right? Yeah. This doesn't pay off until much later. You go in and return to this loading bay, and Pawpaw greets this Garrett named Gooch.
Gooch the Garrett.
He is very supportive of Gooch, and speaks the passphrase into the recorder so we can get into the voice lock. Gooch isn't getting his due.
Yeah, everybody loves Ditchman because Ditchman comes and gives them drugs.
Right.
Yeah. So Pawpaw warns you of a Garrett that John recently pointed at to guard the cathedral, where the messenger is imprisoned. And when we go there, we can talk to this huge Garrett who talks about how devout everyone is. They're doing the rules. And this is, again, Proud Boy bullshit. Don't jerk off. Avoid drugs, porn, the algorithm, video games, soft drinks.
Yeah.
So this, this is probably the best puzzle in the game, is you going around talking to these kids who, they are shithead mall Nazis and stuff, but they are kids. Right?
Yeah.
So you talk about them doing those things. You're trying to catch them up in incriminating stuff.
Right.
And for a long time, the big Garrett will justify them.
Right.
There's a couple different ways to solve this. There are more keys than there are locks for it,
Good
which
design.
I think is cool. Yeah. I never went back and got the father message for Bruce's dad. I saw that you could do that, but I didn't do it. And I was still able to get through here.
Yeah. I think you only need 3 hypocrisies, which is a very hopeful thing. Papa saying like, all you have to do is show that they don't really believe what they say they believe, and then suddenly they will be undone.
Oh, we figured it out. Yeah, that's how we deal with the rise of neo-Nazis.
Well, nevertheless.
Yeah.
But one of these involves kind of going to the club and buying some angel dust to bring to one of the Garretts who's jonesing for a dusting.
Yeah. He needs a dusting.
Yeah. Call her Dusty because she loves angel dust. And then ultimately bring all of these recordings to Giant Garrett, who gets fed up saying like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm actually poor. Like I am from circumstances. All of these are, just rich dipshits. I'm going to go home and actually get back to real life here or whatever. I want to know what leads a Garrett to become a Garrett. Like,
the same things that lead them to become a Garrett in our world.
True. But like the game could
explore it. Yeah. It's again, cannot stress this enough. The game isn't about it.
Yeah.
Like it's just not, it's just weird. It's a grab bag of the ends of a bunch of tales, and it's using a lot of real life shorthand to kind of shore that up. Yep. But I just want a complete narrative, so eventually you get the dust and stuff. You can get into the door. The door to the cathedral is locked by a keypad. The code is all the numbers highlighted in the sermons, which meant going back over the sermons, which is frustrating. You get inside and you see this a stage set of the city lined with these curtains with eyes on the folds. Really great image. This is a mural that's on the roof. But one of the premier images of the game, I think. Yeah.
And the white ball descends kind of down to this altar. And, there's this heavenly view above as the orb descends. And then it comes down and there are a bunch of folding chairs. And there's a table with like a coffee maker and some cookies on the side. I love that transition. That is so good.
That's so good.
Yeah.
So Ditchman says that the lights inside of it are God's voice. And it seeks out Catherine because the Christ blood is in her. And we'll seek out the children next. So we're also doing that. The orb shrinks down and hides in your clothes.
Right.
And you go out to the atrium where you see that John is addressing the Garretts from a pulpit. He talks about drinking the chrism from the egg and learning the forbidden language so they can board the ark there. And everybody it falls apart here because they're not truth faithful. Gooch chimes in and says, why do you get to dress like that? And we have to look like we work at Best Buy. That's ridiculous. And they start fighting. And this is kind of like a funny scene. I wish this was really what mall Nazis were like.
Yeah.
That they would just fall apart like a domino because of nonsense. But in fact, they're actually super dangerous. And it's not this weird comedy thing.
No.
Like I understand the game presents them as dangerous because one of them fucking snipes another one in the head.
Yeah.
But they actually pose danger to real people. Not just each other. It's like this is a weirdly light and kind of funny take on this kind of group.
You mean fascist street gangs? Yeah,
fascist street gangs. It's also weirdly there's some sympathy to it too. The Polygon review of this, which was one of the more effusive ones I've read. Also, the PC Gamer one rather also has an article about the Garretts and how they're kind of victims in this and like the true protagonists. And it was a galaxy brained fucking thing that I really struggled with. Not going to call the person out specifically. Don't want to be a class traitor by saying some games writing is bad. Yeah. But some games writing is indeed bad.
Yeah. I haven't read that, so I can't get into specifics, but that summary does not ring true to me. They are a sideshow. It is literally a circus that is going on around whatever this game is pretending to be. It's just one of another million other things.
Cannot stress enough that I would love a game that actually seriously dealt with fascist street gangs like this.
Mm-hmm.
And like, there is something comical, right? Like the Proud Boys name cereals and pretend not to masturbate. Yeah. Like there is something comical about them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. But that is all tactical, and they're danger clowns. They're trying to disarm you with that bullshit.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure the developer knows that. Like, I don't think that I am smarter or have better politics than the developer of this. I just think they went in a different path with it. And it's to me, it's a symptom of the tone being kind of all over the place.
It's just another of the many stepping stones it wants to hit before they get to credits. Right.
Yeah. We got to talk about all these things.
Yeah.
So they start getting into a fight. And while this is happening, Ditchman adds to the fight.
Mm-hmm.
Calling John a false prophet, and eventually says, run, go to my closet. I'm going to give you the code.
Yeah.
It's from my just ramblings here.
Yeah. He's shouting out all this street preacher stuff that you can hear as you're kind of going back to the closet to enter the code, talking about 2,000 years, one sacrament, 3 descended, the messenger came for one. All this Da Vinci Code stuff that he's real into. You enter these numbers in, and you get into the closet, which is this janitor's closet, where the monk sleeps. Not the monk, where Ditchman sleeps. He's done it up like a monk's cell.
Yes.
He's got all these paintings on the wall. Sleeps on some hay in the corner. There's a wine cask with someone inside that is locked up with an acoustic lock.
So somebody's locked in there. For who knows how long. There's a hidden message on the scroll. We have to look through the app. It tells you to pray at the painting of Mary with Christ. Hold up the phone, and we get to see Ditchman. Ditchman says, the bird freak thinks it will commune with the infinite. Annihilation will be its only home. It speaks its word. I don't know how to pronounce this. Apathia?
Aphatha?
Aphatha? Yeah.
Yes.
Which you can record and use on the lock, which he's just been keeping a Garrett under there in the cask.
Yeah.
So this Garrett had the keys for the rear exit, and he runs to get out. He's just being tortured in a cask. He got mini amontillado, and I don't know who this is or exactly why.
Yeah, it's just Deus Ex Machina, so you can get out without passing through the main entrance. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you go back to Super Duck now that you have the stone, and Super Duck eats it. This orb kind of goes into its gullet there, and then says, "Hey, take your money, go home, and die in peace."
Yep. And this starts Act 3, Faraway Lights. We wake up, we're Kay again. We wake up in LeBlanc's office. He saved you from having your face eaten by Million by emptying all these clips into her. His toilet office, which he offers to let you use at this point, which is great because it's like right next to him, overlooks your house, and that is why he knows your family so well. He's just been shitting and spying. That's it, right?
Yeah. He's got the IBS,
Yeah, it's relatable content. It's leftist bait.
They get it. They know our tummies hurt.
Yeah. Wait, this is about Antifa super soldiers and IBS? This I gotta say. He says he knew that Million was trouble. She's a St. Clair unit, which she had denied. Million denied. Made so trust the spy when it says it's not a spy. Made for corporate espionage.
Right. So. And remember, we have this brother who may or may not be dead. We've run out of places to look for him.
Absolutely. Like that thread is so far in the past. Like, we cannot find him. We've run out of places to look. So he says, check that answering machine that was screaming on the desk. and he gives you your phone, which was Catherine's. So we now have Catherine's phone.
Yeah.
He assumed that we dropped it, but it was down there in the basement.
Mm-hmm. His office is very funny. He's got the toilet right next to his desk, which is right next to his bed. I really liked the fact that he had this clown paint on his desk and warns you not to touch it unless you want to see him clown up, which is absolutely the terminology. Like, I was in a theater production that called for some clown makeup, and the stage manager was like, "Oh, don't worry, I'll bring in my clowning stuff."
We'll clown up.
Yeah, I'm gonna clown up.
Yeah. Gotta clown down.
Got to be down to clown.
You gotta be down to clown. Very, very funny. So you go back to the secret room. There, Million's body is still there, and we turn off this signal jammer so Catherine's head drive can connect to the internet and update all of its adware and firmware and stuff. Get rid of that so we can talk to it. We have a little app on our phone that will tune us into headwares, and she's real garbled. It's really hard to make sense of what she's saying.
Yeah.
This is not an AI or like a singularity thing exactly.
Right.
It's just recording memories and stuff. So this is scary. If this was actually what your head was there, but it's not a consciousness. I don't think that's what they're going for here.
Yeah, but it is very much distressed. It has no idea what's going on or why it's so dark.
Yeah, which is what would happen. Right. We're getting head in a jar shit. Is no good. Yeah. LeBlanc says we should go ask Duck what's up. And LeBlanc is in our party at this point.
Yeah.
When we go there, Garrett's are waiting outside, but they're dressed up like Templars.
Yeah. They had joked, like, why can't we dress up like Templars or shit?
Yep.
Yeah. Well,
one of them says Deus Vault, motherfucker. Just like, it's pretty funny.
Yeah.
But unlike real Proud Boys, we punch them once and they run away.
Yeah.
As opposed to the actual very dangerous fascist street gangs that exist.
Yes. Yeah. Duck is not inside. There's just a note here, saying, "I never thought things would get this fucked up. It all took a turn after they had us tie up the dead lady's kid. Then he tossed John's head in the water." So this isn't a note from Duck. This is a note that one of the Garretts had left, right? Saying just everything has gone sideways. John's head. John has been beheaded.
Yep. And there are coordinates on this, which is where they toss out the head. So that's our next lead. We do find Duck in the library, and he says the Garretts were there demanding he interpret what the Super Duck head drive says. They found this head drive. They mentioned something about having Catherine, but they needed that stone. So we connect the head drive using the app, and we get a ping from a network node that's in distress in the middle of Lake Pontchartrain. So we had to head on out to that Pontchartrain.
So this is the weird story for me about Lake Pontchartrain. I know how to pronounce that because my high school chemistry teacher, specifically chemistry 2, he was a guy who was from Louisiana, didn't speak in a thick accent, but very much came from there. And there was like this whole class unit there, it was like a whole class session that he was teaching about like order of magnitude kind of stuff.
Okay.
Talking about like figuring out, like using using pollution in Lake Pontchartrain as like a way to describe like parts per million and all this kind of stuff. It's kind of like an illustrated example of all of this stuff. And in order to, I forget, it was like for extra credit or in order to like pass the, I don't know, whatever, just like, okay, now pronounce this word, like Lake Pontchartrain. And I was like, I can't remind you enough. I am a 16-year-old, sir, but I will pronounce this word. And that's why Pontchartrain has been kind of pounded into my head.
Yeah, I know how to pronounce it because Gabriel Knight taught me.
Oh, of course.
And that's why I'm doing it right as well. So we drive
Gabriel
out to
also taught me how to pronounce treasure.
Yeah, no, Gabriel Knight taught me a lot. It's me. Everything I know about this area is from this game, Jeremy and Gabriel Knight. And that's a complete education, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we drive out to the lake here, but the truck gets mired in the mud on this road, and we find this old Peachy Duhan's fishing camp on the lake. LeBlanc goes over like these kind of local features on the map we can check out. And learn about this history of the lake.
Yeah.
That's real.
really interesting stuff, like the logging wheel, where the old logging practice like literally shaped things into a wagon wheel because it was the most efficient way to drag in these trees that were felled. Talking about the ghost bayous, how digging all these canals led a bunch of salt water into this lake and killed the local flora. So if you are driving a boat over this particular area, there's going to be land that would be visible if these plants were still there, but it's not. So you're just going to run up on stuff if you're not like super careful or knowledgeable. Actual real ass shit about Lake Pontchartrain.
Yeah, that is not apparently a term that is used. Like if you look up Ghost Bayou, you get that it's the second to last level in Pac-Man World, and there's a movie on IMDb called Bayou Ghost.
Okay.
That is not, I think that's a real life thing that happens, but that is not the term.
Right.
Which I would expect. But the number one Ghost Bayou, the number one Google result is the second to last level in Pac-Man World 2.
Not even Norco? That's weird.
Yeah. You can add Norco to the Google search to get this about it. But yeah, apparently not a real term. But interesting stuff.
Yeah, it's real. You're loving this, aren't you, Cole? Kind of thing.
Yeah. If you look at the map with the app, you find these lights. These mark portals. When you dive through them, it's like snorting that stuff that Ditchman scrapes off the urinal. It's a fucking nightmare. I don't know what that you're not snorting or really even going through a portal. You're going through these little sections and setting these different lights in this trippy nonsense. Like, so you get to see how you're memorizing how these lights blink.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. There are two ways to do this. To get the boat key, that you're gonna do. There's two doors that you can go through.
I use the lower one.
Yeah, I use the command center, the with Dallas and stuff. It's weird that there are two of them. Yeah, but they'll both give you the key. This is the one that seems like it's part of the story. To me from reading. But yeah, it's the one I did as well.
What's in the upper one?
I don't remember. I looked at it in a walkthrough, but I can't remember what it is.
Yeah. Yeah, but like you knock on the door of these, fishing shacks after a bunch of misadventure, Peachy died and now they're being rented out as Airbnbs. You knock on the door and they yell through there saying like, no, we need the boat. The boat came with a unit. But when you mentioned
keep knocking.
You mentioned Duck's name and then the door swings wide open. It's this mobile command center staffed by these older researchers. One of them is Dallas and the other one is somebody it was the person who was working with your mom out in Fat City.
Yep. And they give you the key, but you have to find the node and use this device on it to get a reading from it. If you hang out and listen, what they're researching is the super duck thing. They think it's dying. Its bird net is falling from the sky. Birds are falling dead from the sky. That was part of this air net. They've been studying this network for a decade. And I think that Catherine died because of contact with the nodes in the lake. Her cancer was actually in remission. These nodes accelerated it.
Right. Yeah. So we head out onto the boat and LeBlanc warns us saying like, hey, you can go diving in here, but there are ghosts in that water. Like people say it's nonsense, but they're down there. They're going to beckon you.
It is nonsense. You do have little trippy vignettes though. When you go through there, you go to the points of the map and set the lights. They give you little text adventure bits that are kind of like little stories about what you do that have a light in them. And then you can press a button or flip a switch or turn a wheel, do these things that are clearly metaphorical to set the lights up. To be correctly, which lights up the Ghost Bayous. You could brute force this. This is just a maze through if you wanted to. I looked up whether this still existed, or if whether it was something you had to do. Did it anyway. This is also where you can duck down and get your monkey back.
Yes. But all of these visions are of Blake in danger, trying to heighten the fact that this is still a concern for your character. You may have forgotten this. So I go to the coordinates from Duck's place and you dive down. You do find John's head. This is, you got to get this. And LeBlanc notices that the eyes are these glass orbs. They've been pushed in there. And you go over to this pond, these other coordinates, and you find the last of the super duck nodes. It's this, again, very cool image of this gigantic eagle that's kind of melting into the water and its eyes are torn out.
Yep. So you take out John's eyes and put them in, and it shoots a laser up to the sky. And then the stone pops out of its mouth.
Yeah. So it's clear what happens after this thing ate the messenger. It was too much, and it completely burned it out from within. Yeah.
So you take the reading for your science friends, and then the meter crackles with like a Geiger counter. So this is that radiation that accelerated your mom's cancer from this. You head over to John's Pond, and you pass through these duck blinds where there's some Garretts hanging out. They're dressed up like monks. You're not supposed to be able to pass Ditchman's orders. So Ditchman is at a glow up. Yeah. But once they see that you have the orb, they let you through. This is the messenger.
Yeah.
And you bring up the head, and they're like, oh yeah, the John guy had it coming. He took us for granted, wouldn't let us wear the cool Templar stuff. Ditchman pulled an alpha move and popped his head off.
I love pulled an alpha move and popped his head off.
It's like, it's very funny, but it's again, I take these guys seriously.
Yeah.
So you flash the messenger so you can get in. They want to be flashed. You can use it as an item. There. They start speaking this apocalyptic poetry. They're going to launch your mother, her corpse, into the sky where prayers collide.
Yeah. Cool way to describe the sky.
Great sky description. So you continue forward up into John's Pond. You pull into the pond, this little interlude of Keith's Corner, his boxing themed conspiracy show where no one's watching it. Two people are watching it. Again, also not super well observed in terms of
conspiracy shit.
This should be taking off. Like, I don't know. It's this news broadcast from the friend, boxing themed. He's recapping what happened up until this point. The Garretts have split up into two factions. Here. And everyone else has gone to John's Pond, this area. A lot of people there just to see this rocket go.
Yeah.
They figure those mall Nazis are going to blow themselves up. We got to see it.
Yeah. We got to be right in the debris field of this thing as it blows up.
That I get ABQ'd.
Yeah. But it's like a music festival, and it's real fun because all these fucking little mall Nazis are talking about, the degenerates who are around them. Right.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a guy by the launch pad who talks about how he's been studying the cypress trees in the swamp, how they're getting iridescent and conductive, forming a network like a brain. But this huge energy surges caused them to die off. That's the super duck.
Right. Thing. The fishing camp over to the east there has all these paramilitary Garretts who are waiting to snipe Ditchman when he shows himself. Yep. So this is the gun nut ones as opposed to
the funniest puzzle in the game. It's coming soon.
Yeah.
So there's the gun ones. You go over to the other ones where there's shipping containers where they're preparing for the launch. Right. There's a shipping container with launch logistics there. Bruce is in one of them, so you can play the dad's message and he'll go back home. Because all these Nazis need is to know they have a family.
Yeah.
There's a roughed up Garrett. It says that, hey, man, if I had John's head, I'd parade around with it. And you'd be like, that can be arranged. You give it to him. And he goes up on top of the shipping container. He's very unwell. We've run into this character before.
This is Gooch.
Yeah, this is Gooch. Gooch isn't having a great time and starts yelling he's the ditch man there. So we record him saying he's the ditch man, take it to the paramilitary Garretts and play it so they'll snipe him.
Yeah.
Not necessarily like a very ethical act that's happening in this game.
Nope.
And a very weird adventure game puzzle for a game that is dealing with a lot of real life themes. Here, hold up this severed head and pretend that you are mentally ill, or a different kind of mentally ill than you are.
No.
So you can get sniped.
Yeah.
It doesn't snipe him. It doesn't try,
you can, so here's the thing. If you show the paramilitary guys, John's head, Kenner John's head, they will say okay, no, it's no warding shots. Go for him. Shoot him.
They shoot him, but they shoot the other guy, right? Don't they hit the other dude? I thought they missed. They shot Gooch instead of the one. They tried to, but they missed.
There's something. I did something to make him say no warding shots. Let's actually get this guy.
A guy definitely got shot.
Oh, so the roughed up Garrett is different. They miss and they hit Gooch instead. Okay, I apologize. I got that mixed up.
They miss.
There's a problem when everybody has the same fucking name.
Well, it's Yeah. They miss. So they're not even good at being snipers. Again, a weird way that this game is making them seem harmless, but it does make the music festival break up. Everyone leaves.
Yeah. Once shots are fired, it's a bad scene.
Yeah, this is no longer fun. So you get to grab the keypad from Gooch's body, the key card, and go into the launch pad. So you get to the control platform of the Ark, and the messenger, the orb that you have, flies into your face, giving you a kiss and floating up above towards things.
And this kiss makes things start getting kind of nuts. You end up going into a Silent Hill nowhere of all of these different scenes you have seen before. You know, the lights dim, LeBlanc fades away, and this uplight kind of guides you up toward this ladder, and you're climbing up these different levels of increasingly surreal kind of scenes. You know, there's a shrine, like there's this Pietà, Virgin Mary holding a kind of a limp figure, set up between these two eyes. And you're getting in fights on your way up here as well. But you've got the messenger with you, and it will attack everybody.
Yeah, it does a lot of damage to everything, and mostly they'll attack it.
Yeah.
So you're climbing and fighting. You fight Garrett's and then John. You see the refinery fires, like all these different backdrops you've been through. You eventually reach a level that has Super Duck's guts and heads. LeBlanc fades away. He's no longer in your party. At the end, we're done with the trippy bit of this, the first trippy bit of it. We're all alone. LeBlanc has been hit. He's bloody on the balcony. And he says what was really happening. You was just running around here punching walls, knocking shit over.
Yeah.
Ditchman shot me, and he dies.
Yeah. Asking you like, hey, lie about how I was killed. Don't say this crazy guy shot me.
Yeah, he's but also a great character, big talk.
Yeah, but also don't say a gator got me, because there's this one guy who claimed that he knew more about the swamp than me, and I can't give him the satisfaction.
Yeah, I'm the swamp lord.
Yeah. So we go down this dark hallway that looks kind of like the hallway at the plantation house, and then gravity loses hold. There's this door, this passageway. There's a center door, there's a right door, and a left door. You go in the right door, and then gravity loses its hold, and we're in the second trippy section. Everything is dark, but then the whole coastline lights up beneath you. And then this thing that I think is super affecting happens. We see like the floor plan blueprint of your house.
I like this a lot.
Yeah, this is Vorpal to me.
Yeah, it's one of the things that like I think is specific enough. Like the prose is good enough here.
Yes,
for me it's not even particularly Vorpal. It's just good writing.
Yeah,
like this actually works, and it's just weird. It's hard though, because it just highlights the times where they deploy this and it's to no effect. Which bums me out.
Yeah.
Like this is really affecting. This is great.
Yeah. I mean, just man, how many times have I like put myself to sleep doing like mental walkthroughs, of childhood homes, these different places, right? Let's walk through this house one last time as the floodwaters rise, so this is like kind of looking into the future. And we go room by room. And we get a description of this room and, something that happened. I believe it was like the last time you were here before you left for good. Right.
Yeah.
And then after this, we get this glimpse of the future, right? If everything works out well here, you still end up wandering all alone. And Blake, God, I love this phrasing here. Blake just goes to Salt Lake and gets younger and younger.
Yeah. Yep. You explore these rooms. You see Blue, as they're falling away, and Blue, is talking about a good line. I'm glad you pulled it. You just don't think it'll get that bad, but when it does, you don't think there's any other way it can be. That's a well-observed phrase. That's what gets me. You go in the base of the secret room. You talk to Million, who apologizes, showing you her alien mind, how the hunter appears and drags her to the dark place where the ground is angry, vectors of red. Any attempt to make me care about this robot failed.
Yeah.
All of my robot caring about currency is gone. Video games have spent it all. I'm absolutely completely fucking broke. Cannot care about a robot anymore.
Yeah. The other hallway back at the ornate kind of passageway there takes you to Laura's office again. And this unknown force has animated her body and is talking to us. talking about how time bombs are time machines. They release the future into the streets. This refinery was a time bomb with or without me.
Yeah. Again, good line.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You can ask what she is, and she says she was never young. A kingdom for this earth it could never be. We sat all of us in the shed among the figs, where the stars shone through the rafters. She who carried his seed pointed there and said, "Old man, you live forever. Lead his children there. His kingdom awaits him there."
Yeah. Kind of implying that Ditchman / Pawpaw, the guy who was taken over here, is what he says he is. This immortal guy who walked along the side of Jesus and has acted as a caretaker for the line ever since.
Yeah. This grandfather, this Pawpaw, knew the truth about the family. Nobody believed him. Catherine found an angel, and it will guide and protect you as you fly. So the orb being an angel here. When you leave the office, the hallway collapses, and the central door opens in the main chamber, where we get to do the ending Tron 3000.
Yes.
You reach the central room. It has 3 thrones set up. Really weirdly end of Hereditary like.
Yep.
Catherine's corpse is on the main one in the center under the messenger. Blake is tied up in the one on the right. And Pawpaw stands tall. He's standing finery covered in makeup next to the left chair. And he thanks you for bringing the ring, the Jewel of Magdalene, with you, which is a fake
grab
ring.
it.
Yeah. You cannot rescue Blake. There are 3 different endings to this you can do at this point. You can't just rescue Blake. If you sit in the chair, Pawpaw radios to Bruce to start the launch. If you got rid of Bruce, he leaves to see what's wrong, and you can get the golden ending.
Right.
Where you free Blake and Kate's body.
Right. You grab them. Like this description, she feels like a bundle of sticks wrapped in fabric. She smells like orange peels and myrrh. Right.
Yeah.
And then you head out of the chamber. There's no way out except to go off the balcony where LeBlanc died. And you take a dive down into the water, watching up as the rocket takes off. Right. And we swim to shore as we see the old man screaming at us. Yeah. Before the airlock seals. So he is headed into space alone without his, line of Christ with him.
Yep. You can also sit in the chair and go up to space, or you can dive off alone and abandon your brother and mother.
That'd be a shitty thing to do.
It would. Boy, laying it all out like that, it does not feel like the ending matches where we were in the beginning.
No. So the only like purely supernatural thing that is treated as being something, real here, that super duck aside, explain through like technical stuff. The only like purely magical thing is this messenger, right? Contact with it, did make you see some crazy shit and seems to have done something to this guy, the ditch man, Pawpaw, whether or not there is truth to what he is, or he is just an unwell, unhoused man who happens to be supernaturally effective and psychotic,
Yeah, like real good at popping heads and likes to keep people in casks. It doesn't feel, it feels incomplete to me.
It's like somebody is like trying to tell you a story and says, all right, I'm just going to use some visual aids here, and starts pulling out really neat figurines to set on the table. And saying what each of them is. And you think, okay, well, they're going to start moving these around to tell a story with each of them.
But they just keep pulling out new ones.
They just keep pulling out new ones to set them there. And then at the end, the bag is empty.
Like, tropes. Yeah. And then at some point it just has to end and you have to go get lunch.
Yeah.
And it's very frustrating to me. Again, my inner critic is yelling at me and being like, no, it's, messes are good. But I don't think I actually like messes that much. And if I do like a mess, so here, compare with Sorry to Bother You, right? That is a class conscious leftist bait story that is about a lot of things. That touches on all kinds of things, but they get completed. Like most of the threads get an arc. Like it really does feel like you said, where it's just continually bringing out new things.
Yeah.
And we never go back to the old ones. That's kind of how I feel like if you watch The Wire continually expands its cast and everything. But the beautiful balancing act that takes is that it never loses sight of like a core theme. Yeah. This is maybe just me being old and the Youngs are really into this kind of scattershot, like it is sufficient that this touches on all these themes, but it does not need to explore any of them.
Yeah.
Did you watch Nope?
No, I've not seen Nope.
It reminds me a little bit of Nope in that way. Like I liked Nope. Nope's a great movie. It's really good. It's my second favorite Jordan Peele movie, right? So it's like still really, really good. But it also has a little bit of this like trying to be about everything and not saying anything about everything. And I don't need my steak cut out for me. I'm not an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, I just want something. I want these themes and these ideas to be more than name checked.
Yeah.
You know, this weird way that it feels like it needs another hour to actually tie this stuff together, or at least not have it feel so whiplashy when all of a sudden we're dealing with, you know, trippy memories and the Christ child in a rocket ship.
Yeah.
A homemade rocket ship. I don't know. It left me really fucking cold, man. I didn't hate it. There are things to like about it. I'm glad we played it.
Yeah.
I really don't see what the fuss is though.
Yeah. I don't know. Like, I just don't have a lot of room for escalation without culmination. Right.
Yeah.
Like the fact that it gets heightened and heightened and heightened. It just, I don't know. The crass way to say it would be like, there's blue balls about it, you know?
Yeah.
But like, that also implies that I got more than halfway through without kind of resigning myself to the fact that it wasn't going to pay itself off. Right.
Yeah.
That as I kept on bringing in more and more, that I could never, you know, and never pull off, you know, bringing together, or didn't feel like at the time anyway. You know, it just kind of
blue balls. Like, have you ever had a situation where you've started jerking off and then it's really not going anywhere and you stop? Like I've had that happen a couple times.
Yeah.
You know, where I'm like, I'm not feeling this. I was doing this because it seemed like the right idea at the time, but I don't really want this.
I was bored. Maybe I was just hungry instead.
Trying to sleep. Yeah. And instead I'm going to get up. This isn't working.
Yeah.
You know, it's not that I can't.
Yeah.
You know, I just don't want to. You know, it's like that two blue balls is this two video games.
The fact that there are so many pieces that are just put on the board, it feels like it's banking on recognition in order to, you know, kind of carry it through, you know, pulling out all of these signifiers. Right. I could be real inflammatory here and make a comparison to fucking, like, I don't know, Robot Chicken. I feel like this is more artful than that, but you know,
how dare you? You don't say. How do you figure, man?
I say that in order to be like, you know, that would be an inflammatory and unfair kind of thing. But there is kind of, you know, just it's not. It's in the same zip code, maybe not the same city or the same neighborhood, but like, you know, by banking on recognition, like, okay, like, oh yeah, no, I know what that is. There we go. I get it. Yeah, then it's here. It's a part of this. It is
kind of like Ready Player One for leftist themes.
Yeah.
You know, like that is a real mean thing to say. And I don't necessarily believe that, but I think that there's slightly more truth to it than you want there to be.
Yeah, I mean, at the very least, like, there is beauty to this in a way that there is no beauty to all of those other things. This is made with genuine heart, you know, in the parts where it really sings, like, I do not see this as being, you know, crass and mercenary like those other things are. And that that is why it is an unfair comparison to make. And but it is similar or as unto. Right. And I think that it's just it is a lack of focus and a lack of coherence to where it just expands out without recognizing that there is value in drawing back.
It's one of those things where by exaggerating, you can declare a direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like it's not that this is the Ready Player One of leftist themes. It's just that is the end point of a trajectory this is on. Mm-hmm. It's not nearly as far and it has a lot of other qualities, but that is just a one sentence way of encapsulating the feeling we got from this.
If I wanted to be glib, I could stand behind that and underline it and say it is that. But I'm not.
Don't want to be glib. Instead, we talked about it for 2 hours. You know, we did due diligence on it. Another thing that I think is not really fair to the game, but it's still an impression I got, is that it felt a little bit like it was skipping steps. Like these things that are all being used as shorthand are shorthand because of real life. You know, and that's fine. That's all well and good. But like, we haven't had our game dealing with, like the rise of these fascist street gangs and their origins.
Yeah.
You know, that actually does the throughput, like the complete story of that. We haven't had enough representation in the gaming space of this kind of setting, you know, this kind of town that is, you know, so a point of comparison, another game that gets a lot of comparisons to is Night in the Woods, right?
Yes.
Which is a game I liked a little bit less than my contemporaries, but I still liked. I think in terms of having a sense of setting, but then also fully exploring that sense of setting, it does it. You know, so that ground has been laid. We can do a Rust Belt. I know this isn't strictly the Rust Belt, but we can do like a post-industrial small town vibe.
Yeah, where the waters rose, made a mark, and then receded. Yeah.
Yeah. The medium has done its work for that. This is invoking a lot of things that I think the medium has not yet done its work for. So that's part of why it feels like the shorthand doesn't accomplish as much as it could.
Yeah.
Like I want all the things it's teasing me with.
Yeah.
I want the game that deals with like the Proud Boys. I want the game that deals with the gig economy. I am happy with Soma. So I don't need them to do the super duck thing in this, but like, you know what I mean, right? Like,
well, a story can be made where BirdNet is more of a factor.
Yeah. I feel like that's a cool idea. Yeah. You know, a cool idea that there's things to say about it that this doesn't say it. It raises a lot of questions without doing any answers, and I don't need things spoon fed to me, but I do want to have an essay question. You know, I want to have a complicated question.
Yeah. It's you know, the only thing it seems to be talking about is not only thing it seems to be talking about, but like what we're left with is this angel, this messenger is absolutely real, and no person or construct of man can stand up to it. Right.
Yeah.
But this game is not a discussion about faith. You know, that like
it touches on it a couple times.
It is asked, like, do you still believe or not?
Yeah.
You know, I'm excited that we're going to be talking about Pentiment soon, because that is a game that is entirely about faith. I think that is absolutely a worthy thing for a game to explore. Right.
Yeah. It is one of those things where something presents a buffet of themelets. If you are very sensitive to one of those themes, you can pick it up and spin out the game. And, you know, like I've read statements where it's like, this is a game, this is a meditation on faith.
Hey man, that's not the game. That's you. And that's cool.
Not the game.
And it brought it out.
It's cool that it brought it out in you. And I'm not saying that's the game didn't do anything to bring that out in you. It's just, it doesn't feel accurate to me. It feels like rounding.
Yeah.
You know, in a way that just and then putting aside just the absolute waste of having the mechanics, the combat system in this and stuff, it just is too messy for Gary. Too messy and incomplete.
Does knowing that this is the first part of a planned trilogy change any of this? Like, do you feel like it feels like somebody could counter and say, I'm just making up a straw man here, could counter and say, well, like, oh yeah, they're introducing this stuff so it can pay off later. You are responding to, you know, you're saying this is an incomplete story, and it is, like, by design.
Well, that's not usually how trilogies work.
Right.
You know, like that's how an episodic thing works, but that's not. Trilogies usually are 3 complete stories that are tied together and tell one big story, but you don't end up with this many weird loose ends. If they do Norco 2 and 3 or whatever, and they follow up on these threads, there's still going to be this tonal whiplash in this one. Like specifically, I think that the infantilization and tooth taking of the Proud Boy thing is problematic.
Yeah.
I do not like this game's attitude towards this actual real life scary thing. That even if they do one where they explore the origin of the Garretts, how somebody becomes a Garrett and everything, that will help, but it still has to stand on its own.
Yeah.
You know?
And the entry point into that broader story, it gets harder to recommend because it is as much of a mess as it is.
Yep. Your mileage may vary if you're listening to this. And if you have other opinions on this, I want to hear them. You know, please write in, because if this hits you, and specifically, I'm going to say, put a challenge to our listeners who this did work for. Tell me why, like in sincerely tell me why, not just that it did or how much it did, which is what a lot of the reviews are just, things saying that this had a huge effect. I don't want to know the degree. I want to know the cause. What did game do to give this to you? And I'm not saying that in a hypothetical way. I'm not saying that as if there's no answer. I'm saying that as if I want to know for you what that is.
We're seeking to understand here.
Yep. Whenever I have a really strong reaction to a game, even if it's a game that people didn't really like, I like to do that. I want to know what people see in it that I didn't see, and vice versa.
Right.
So yeah, write in.
Please do.
If you have thoughts about Norco, or The Bard's Tale, episode 1. This is the classic 80s version. We're playing the remastered version, but we're not doing the re-snarkled version or whatever. And then Bowser's Fury, which is our premium episode for that month. Please write in by May 15th.
Yeah. Go to Duckfeed.tv/contact and use the WAF button there. If you have thoughts about multiple games, please write in multiple responses, and keep your responses a little on the briefer side and specific. Yeah.
Yes, please. And then by June 15th, if you have thoughts, we're going to be running our live episode. So this is a discussion, hour-long discussion about 7 out of 10 games that we had live at the Midwest Gaming Classic with Bob Mackey. Good, fun episode. Then we are doing Infernax. And then big boy episode 400 coming, as you mentioned, Pentiment, which I'm really excited about.
Me too.
Yeah.
And then also excited about the premium episode there, Resident Evil 4 Remake.
Yeah. I absolutely fucking adore it. Still very tempting just to play it again.
Yeah.
Thing. So that's June 15th. If you have things about that, if you are a non-white, non-cis, non-straight, non-male creator, and you'd like us to give you a shout out, please send me an email at Gary@Duckfeed.tv. This episode, I want to shout out Danny Doyle. She does a YouTube channel where she does challenge runs and runs of RPGs like Fire Emblem, Pokemon, Paper Mario, dabbling in the Souls series. Currently finishing a Paper Mario level 1 run through the whole series.
Nice.
You can find her at youtube.com/@Danny, DANI, Doyle, DOYLE. So check that out if you're looking for a new YouTuber. Especially somebody who covers, we don't do tons of JRPGs. They're, big time sinks. But if you are interested in, Fire Emblem and the like.
Yeah. And
sounds like be cool.
Non-standard challenge runs,
Yeah.
A lot of challenge run spaces dominated by a handful of games. Never heard of anybody doing a level 1 run of all of Paper Mario.
Yeah. The entire series, which is really crazy. To me, that's interesting. So check her out. youtube.com/@Danny Doyle.
Yeah. If you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/Duckfeed.tv. That is how you get the full version of all the premium episodes. So Bowser's Fury, or Resident Evil 4 Remake, backing at that tier, the $5 tier, gets you, all of those, prior. So you get access to the entire back catalog, which is plenty by this point.
Yes. Yeah. And you get a bunch of other shows as well. Filmable, at $10 you get Adaptation Decay and Quackstack, which we do with our producer Gwen. Big thanks to Gwen. We appreciate you very much. We think there's a lot of value there. And if you can rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Podcast Addict, anywhere where you see podcast being sorted, categorized, and marched in lines.
Raises our visibility in some way that is hard to describe, but real.
Yes.
You might say we have faith in it.
Yes. It's a meditation on our faith in reviews. They also, when we see them, they make us feel good.
I don't look at them.
I don't look at them either. The chance that I might feel bad. But I like the idea that I could possibly feel good.
Yeah.
Can you imagine? Looking forward to that.
Yeah. I think that's about everything as far as business and stuff goes. So, do you want me to just leave them with until next time?
What should they do until next time?
Yeah. I would say until next time, watch out for that dead mall.